This episode of the Co-optional Podcast is proudly sponsored by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain name, website, or online store, make your next move with squarespace.com/cooptional. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Co-optional Podcast here on the 26th of September. Yeah, it's September, isn't it? 2017. Lovely.
Indeed.
Yep, see how much you care about that date? It's like, on this day... What happened on this day?
The year of our Lord, 2000...
I'm gonna have to look this up now.
We have our Lord CrossFit Jesus in 2017.
CrossFit Jesus?
Don't
he
ask.
Sounds cool.
Yes, there'll be occasional random wrestling references on the show, mostly
I
due to
assumed it must have been
Simon
a
Miller's reason. He's here, it'll happen.
I got quite excited straight away. It's like you made a reference, and I was like, I know that reference.
I know that thing.
I know that.
Don't worry, we can slide it past these two, because they don't. But on this day in 1493, Pope Alexander VI, there were 6 of them apparently, issued the papal bull Dudum Secretum, the last of the bulls of donation, marking the beginning of the Spanish colonization of the Americas.
Yes, but let us never forget in 1680, the tax revolt on Gorenchim due to tax on cereal. Yes, truly, 'twas a dark time.
Indeed, it was. A crunchy, but otherwise dark time.
Yes.
Indeed. And
so
the rest
proud
of
of
the
you guys.
stuff's just really depressing.
I Googled that.
It's like, World War I,
What? You didn't
Holocaust,
just
and
know that?
the Taliban.
There was a cereal revolt. There was a tax on cereals. Who knew?
Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. It's probably considered essential at this point. I'll have to keep coming back to that wonderful court case. It was about Jaffa cakes. It was whether or not Jaffa cakes are an essential part of the British diet. Because biscuits, they're considered an essential. But a cake is considered a luxury item. So one has a tax, one does not.
But
So-
wasn't there also a big debate over whether or not a Jaffa cake was a biscuit or a cake?
Yes, that was the whole
Okay.
that was the whole thing, and it came down to
Right.
a cake goes hard when you leave it out for a few days. A biscuit goes soft.
People are mad about Jaffa cakes at the moment as well.
Really? What's going on with Jaffa cakes? What have they
They've
done now?
reduced the packaging from 12 to 10 Jaffa cakes.
Fuck
That's
that.
garbage.
Everyone has gone insane. Like, how on earth am I meant to eat only 10 Jaffa cakes? And eat 12?
Yeah, that's
And I
bullshit.
respect these people. I respect them. I understand where they're coming
But
from.
the
they're
important
right.
question is, does it cost the same?
Well, no, this is the weird point. So the RRP, here we go. I read this story.
All right, here we go.
All right, hit me
Good. I'm
with
doing
all of
research. I'm happy with it. Let's go.
Now, McVitie's, who I believe is the Jaffa cake maker,
They
is
are,
lowered
yep.
the RRP. However, people like Sainsbury's and Tesco and all of that have kept the price the same. So they're trying to rip everybody off, even though there's
Disgusting.
two less Jaffa cakes.
Disgusting
Wow.
behavior, that. And what
Disgusting.
use is 10 Jaffa cakes, for fuck's sake? You know, I'm going to have to buy 2 packets now. For some reason.
I'm not eating Jaffa cakes unless it comes in multiples of 6. That's the
Yeah.
rule when it comes to Jaffa cakes. We all know that. So, yeah.
Indeed, yeah. Special guest today, renowned Jaffa cake activist Simon Miller. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I am here to just talk about Jaffa cakes.
That is basically
I
the
love
reason we brought you in.
Just
Yeah,
work it into every
only
conversation
reason.
about every
No other
game.
reason at all.
It's going to get really boring really quickly because I think I'm going to run out of stuff to say about Jaffa cakes as well.
I don't think you can ever run out of stuff to say about Jaffa cakes. I think you can. Jaffa cakes belong in every discussion, whether the people in that discussion believe so or not. They're just mistaken. They haven't quite grasped it yet.
Can I ask a question? So I've been very confused because my British husband as well as my British viewers keep talking about Ripples, but there's a Ripple
Ripples,
like candy
yes.
bar and there's also Ripple ice cream.
Okay.
Is that true?
I don't know.
I never
actually.
know which one anybody's talking about.
I mean, you'd be if you were in the UK and you said I'd like a Ripple, people would usually say, "Well, that's a chocolate bar. It's Galaxy
Okay.
Ripple, which is very tasty, by the way, very good." I didn't know anything about Ripple ice. The thing is, there's a Raspberry Ripple. Raspberry Ripple is an ice cream flavor. Yeah, that's got nothing to do with that.
About.
All right, that's got nothing to do with that. But yeah, if you said I'd like a Ripple in the UK, I will be referring to the chocolate bar.
Okay.
Generally speaking, I don't know much about if they made a Ripple ice cream or whatever, but
a Raspberry Ripple is just like a flavor of ice cream?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just like raspberry sauce, and they just kind of swirl it and mix it into the ice cream, and that's Raspberry Ripple. Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with the chocolate bar. Not the same company at all.
You've gone away from Jaffa Cake, so I can't help you with this. I don't.
Sorry, I'm out.
I don't have any information about Ripple.
I'm saying is they never did a proper Jaffa Cake ice cream. I used to just get Jaffa Cakes, mash them up in the ice cream, and eat them that way. But if they put Jaffa Cakes in the ice cream, I would probably die. But up until that point, I'd be very happy and buy a lot of them.
One day, maybe
Yes.
that will happen now that everyone's moaning about it.
Yes,
Right.
yes, indeed. So, Simon, you are quite the pedigreed sort in this particular industry, and of course in the wrestling industry as well. You're currently training to be a pro wrestler, as
I am.
As people could probably tell by the size of your fucking arms.
Oh, that's
if you'd
very
like,
kind.
If you'd like to demonstrate that to the audience, these are.
Oh wow!
I'm
Okay,
fairly
this
sure
is-
he could bench press Jesse. Look at those
I don't-
fucking
can you
things.
see that?
He
I
could
don't know if
bench
you can
press
see that.
Jesse. Oh, we can see it. Yeah, it's Jesus Christ, just terrifying. But you also used to, of course, be a part of the famed UK gaming establishment Videogamer.com before that folded.
Indeed.
You currently do your own stuff, the Miller Report, and you also do some videos for What Culture as well.
That's right. That's kind of my sort of basic remit at the moment. Yeah, I wind up people on my channel, which you can find just looking at the
Oh,
Miller
I've been
Report.
seeing, I've been noticing that over the past week. Yeah, so way to go.
Yeah. So I kind of do that, and then if you'd like a more serious take on professional wrestling, you can find me over on What Culture. Just doing basic reviews and giving you the truth about pro wrestling in a positive way. That's my
Indeed.
gimmick. My gimmick is wrestling's awesome. Let's just enjoy it for what it is, and that winds
fair.
everybody
That's
up
a
too.
good gimmick.
Oh, that does piss a lot of people off. Yeah.
I
So
think
if there is
Like, I don't want you to
anything,
be nice.
if there is anything we love engaging with as sort of the wrestling fandom, as it were, it's complaining about wrestling. Like that's usually more fun than the shows. I think a lot of us will sit down, and particularly we've got a little Skype group, and we'll watch the pay-per-views, and we're mostly there just to laugh at it and complain at each other when something goes wrong. But when it was what's his name? I keep forgetting his bloody name. Oh God. The guy who did Wrestling Isn't Wrestling.
Oh, Mike Landis.
Yes, Max
Is that his name?
Landis. Yeah,
Max Landis.
Yeah,
Oh,
Max
Max Landis.
Max Landis. He had a great quote. It's like most of wrestling's bad, but when it's good, it's fucking great. Yeah,
Exactly. I think that's why people keep back. And I don't want to, steal the conversation away. Just talk about Jaffa Cakes and wrestling.
I
when
do, but okay.
but when wrestling is good, it's up there with some of the best stuff in the world.
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So when you
It's
get
just-
invested in it, it's a good plot line. Like I said, it's real life anime, and I mean in Japan, it very much is because some of the characters in Japanese wrestling are literally from an anime that was based on a wrestling show that was based on another anime. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
real
I think
thing.
my favorite Japanese wrestling stuff is when people actually dress up as like kaiju and fight each other.
Oh, I've
That's
seen that.
the
Yeah,
best.
yeah,
It's
that's
just like
a good
how
shit. It's fun.
See?
more.
Exactly. This is why wrestling is great and why I've decided to dedicate a good portion of my life to it.
Indeed.
I probably should have gone out of it years ago, but no way, man.
I don't
No
think
way.
so. I don't think so.
Winding people up in wrestling. That's all I want to do. And eat Jaffa Cakes. That's it. That's
I
my
think it's a
two things.
pretty reasonable set of life goals, attainable as well. Which is very, very
Exactly.
important there.
Exactly.
I noticed actually before we kind of go into video games, sort of as a little transition, huge crossover between like the video game crowd and the wrestling crowd right now. We were playing Spot the Video Game sign in the audience of the No Mercy pay-per-view. There was this big one. It was Persona 5. Two of the main wrestlers who are currently in the tag team champions, dressed as Persona 5 characters. And they were going to these guys are going to steal the tag team championships or whatever. I was like, it's interesting
cool.
to see just how much of that is overlapping now.
Absolutely. Especially something like Persona 5. It's not
Yeah.
like, it's pretty niche.
Yeah,
And yet, it kind of goes to show that, gamers are, they're invested in their games, they're invested in their wrestling, and that works well for me.
Yep, that's a good, perfect little crossover point there.
Exactly, yeah. So I think Xavier Woods has helped with that as well.
I think he has a lot. Yeah.
I think so too.
He's been on the show, very much legitimizing that. Most wrestlers apparently have started playing video games in the back rather than doing drugs and killing themselves, which I think is a pretty good. That's a good change. So well done to them. Good
Which
on that
some
one.
people still criticize. I just want to put out there. Some
Really?
wrestlers still come out and criticize that. More
Damn
deaths they want.
video games.
Do some.
This is why there are no more real wrestlers.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
We want rock star wrestlers back.
Uh-huh, indeed. Oh, well, on the Co-op Local podcast, we do occasionally talk about video games. Coming up in the show, we're talking about the games we've been playing this week. We'll also be covering the news, various interesting topics. Bluehole getting themselves into a hole that they dug themselves again. Oh, that's going to be fun. That's going to be an interesting topic, to say the least, regarding PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds with Fortnite Battle Royale. Also...
Oh, God.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into on that. And of course, the releases. We've been spending the last couple of hours of sifting through them, trying to find some stuff that's actually good. Because as usual, there's about 150 games coming out this week. I mean, I've already identified a good 5 or 6 this week that I actually want to play. So there's a lot. There's a lot of good stuff coming out this week. So definitely don't let that slide on by. Jesse, you have a interesting look in your eye, a twinkle, a sparkle,
No,
if
it's
you will.
just I had the epiphany that there's too many damn games, and when you were like, I had a look, and there were 5 or 6 that I really liked this week. I was like, you have time for 5 or 6 games?
No, I don't, but I want to have time for 5 or 6 games. I'd love to have time for 5 or 6.
I guess the thought process is maybe one of those 5 or 6 is something that you, the viewer, would love, but oh my God.
A lot of it's down like which one to
Listen, I was
pick.
like, I can't. We need to slow it down with these games.
I told you we do. Like, I'd be okay with a mandatory abandonment of development for the next 2 years because we have a lot of games we need to catch up
Oh
on.
my
Just
God.
give us a bit
I
of
would
time.
catch up on so many games.
Oh, God.
I'd be well up for that.
Yeah, sounds like a great idea. Just don't make any more video games, okay? You can do remasters. I'll let you do that because, we've already played those. But no more video games for a while,
Yeah,
please.
all of you developers out there, you're cool with not having a paycheck for like 2 years, right?
Yeah, that should be fine.
They've
I don't
got loads
that's-
of cash.
can't
I think
possibly see a problem with
That's
that.
fine, right?
Yeah, so that should be.
You're all
that should
doing
be just,
great.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about it.
just completely reasonable. Yeah, we'll get paid by the power of loot boxes, right? That's how it works. All right. So about the games we've been playing this week, Simon, why don't you start us off? Toss a hat in the ring, as it were. Anything you've been playing this week?
Well, yeah, I've actually been playing a lot of all the things in the world because I happen to spend a few days at EGX over here in the UK.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Dissidia, Final Fantasy.
Oh, is it the new one or the old one you've been messing
The
about
new
with?
one, the
All
PS4
right.
one that comes out next year. Now,
Yeah.
admittedly, beforehand, if you had asked me to explain anything about it, I'd have been like, I'd rather not do that. Thanks very much, because I have no idea what this insane game is. But I tell you, after I was kind of basically helping Square out with it for 4 days. I was basically just running my mouth like an idiot about it because that's what I do.
Yeah,
sometimes.
we've done that. That's a part of our job description. Don't worry.
Exactly. And after sort of getting to grips with it, I started to realize that it got in me. It got inside of me. I actually started to enjoy it, which for me is nuts because I don't play Final Fantasy games really. And I'm not the biggest fighting game fan in the world. I play Street Fighter because I'm that guy and I'm a disgrace to mankind. If you put BlazBlue in front of me, I'll probably have an aneurysm and collapse on the floor.
Maybe, but Street Fighter's still pretty fucking good. I mean, you're allowed to just play Street Fighter. It's always interesting about fighting games because like how goddamn hard a lot of them are to actually learn. But Dissidia, it's an interesting example because I kind of played it back on the PSP for the same reasons. I'm not that big into Final Fantasy either, but as a fighting system, it's actually surprisingly accessible.
Oh, it really is. And that's the best thing about it is because when you first look at it, it is crazy intimidating.
Yes.
There's like lines everywhere and the mini map is huge. But actually, when you break it down and you realize those target lines literally mean if it goes red, run away because someone's trying to target you. And also, why don't you glance at your mini map every now and then? Because you're going to know where everybody else is on the battlefield and you can, again, get away. You start to realize it's actually got loads of depth. And if you start chatting to the people you're with too, I tell you, man, I got really into it to a surprising degree. And also, everything's better with friends. So when you've got 2 people you can yell at and then high five when you win. Honestly, yeah, I was surprised about, and also I did that thing where I started off being an assassin because I like, I'm basically a parody of myself, and I like being well aggressive and getting in people's faces. But then when you start to learn it and you take a step back, you're like, actually, I'm much better suited to being a sort of marksman character and hanging back and picking people off, like sniping them away. And I tell you, by the end of those 4 days, it had absolutely won me over. And I was genuinely surprised because I never thought I'd play anything like that. But like you say, it's not that hard to learn. And that was always my worry when I looked at it. I was like, I can't get my head around that. I'm an idiot. But now, yeah, I tell you, I'm surprised, genuinely surprised.
Yeah, they've kind of mixed the game up a little bit. Initially, it was like mostly a 1 versus 1 fight, and I played the campaign. They had some pretty strong campaigns because you could pick your favorite Final Fantasy character, go through the campaign. There was always everyone had like a different nemesis. There was this kind of weird grid system you moved around on. This one seems like it's more team battle oriented, from what I can tell.
Yes.
Like you go play multiplayer.
It's 3-on-3. So but basically what they want you to do is sort of balance your classes and come up with a strategy and stuff like that. And that does help. But even if you just go, I don't have any friends, I want to be a loner, and I just want to, go in and kick some ass, you really can. I was genuinely, it's one of the nice things about, getting involved in that way with a video game, because I wouldn't have even looked at that beforehand. But actually getting to sit down and actually having time with something, because, I had a lot of time to play around with it. Yeah, I was like, geez, I'm actually going to play this when it comes out as well. I won't be any good at it because I'm no good at fighting games. However, it did sink its teeth. Well, yeah, exactly. I saw some people playing it, and I was like, this is ridiculous. They're like, I don't understand how everybody gets that good at video games. It's just, it's nuts to me. I try really hard. Not anymore because I'm old. But when I was young, I tried really hard, and it never made a difference. The only thing I ever did in video games was I got in like the top 10 in the world on PGR3 in a Lamborghini Diablo on the half circuit of the Nürburgring. And I was there for about 20 minutes, and then I was gone again. I was like, that was a waste of my life. It took me about 6 months.
It was like, this is my crowning gaming achievement at some point. I remember being put top of a leaderboard when the game hadn't come out yet, and it was just me and 4 other games journalists, and that was it. I'm like, I'm the king of the world until the damn game came out, and I just got slapped about silly. It's interesting you bring up Dissidia, because there was another game, of course, that came out this week, more of a re-release, of course, Pokken Tournament, which came out to the Switch, and that's more of it's a fighting game, but it's got this kind of 3D arena space element to it, and it's less about the crazy combos and everything. And I always felt Dissidia was kind of like that as well. Like, when I played the first one, it's like, yeah, there's fighting game elements here, but the 3-dimensional aspect and zipping around and fighting in the air and all that kind of thing seems like it's a bit more important than learning a bunch of crazy combos and a lot of fighting game fundamentals. And I was actually quite intrigued by the game as a result of that. Jesse, did you get a chance to play any of the Dissidias? Obviously, you're big into Final Fantasy. Did you dabble in that at all?
I mean, I played it at E3. I would definitely probably agree with the fact that it at least to me was a game that you need to actually spend some time with to learn. God, I was terrible. All I want to do was be Terra. All I want to do was turn into a big pink fluffy monster and murder people. I was getting stomped. Apparently, there were people there who were very skilled in a game that did not exist yet and were just shitting on me. And I was like,
sounds about right.
All I want to do is learn how to play. And they're like, nope, F you, you're dead. Like, cool, all right.
You don't get
good
to.
scrub.
Yeah, but it's graphically it looks beautiful. It plays really, really well. It's just one of those things where I wish I'd gotten a chance to actually play it instead of be destroyed repeatedly for 30 minutes. So it's like
actually had time to understand it.
It feels like you need time to understand exactly, besides the main gameplay of you can target people and you can you have a little line that says who you're focusing on, stuff like that, and you zip around the map faster than the speed of light. Besides all those basic things, there's definitely a layer to this game that's that's how you really play it. There's more to this than just the BS I initially saw. And I was like, okay, I get it. I didn't get it. There's a level that these guys were on that I was not on. They were destroying me. And yeah, I learned some hard lessons that day. Being humble, I was like, okay, this is what this is. All right.
I do hope they make sure that they still have a campaign mode, because there was a lot of gameplay in that in the initial games on the PSP, and I spent a good probably 95% of my time doing that, not playing multiplayer. If they have neglected that, I will be somewhat disappointed. I would hope that they have not.
I think it's in there, but I say that very trepidatiously. I don't know 100%.
So I'm going to Google it and find out, because if they've decided to cut that out in favor of sort of 3-on-3, like, I'm cool with that. Yeah, apparently, so there is a story mode. It's a video. I can't bring that up right now, but there is going to be some sort of, wait a minute. Apparently, no, there isn't. Right, so...
There's no story mode?
Well, it said, rather than a dedicated story mode, new story elements will be revealed as the player participates in battles. They're not talking so much about that, but I am not happy hearing that at all. That was what I played Dissidia for. Apparently, this is the confusion, because obviously this game is already out at the arcades in Japan. So
and
the
it's
console
massive as well.
Yes, that's probably why you were getting wrecked, because people already know how to play it. But there's going to be the.
Are you saying people went to Japan just to learn how to play, then come to E3 and they were like, "Is that Cox?"
Yes.
I mean, I would do that.
Stay up.
That's the kind of thing I would do specifically just to annoy you. But
I don't think the rest of the world would.
I think you underestimate their dedication.
Kindness. Oh boy, we're screwed.
So the home console version, the port, which is why it's taking so long, looks like it's going to have some sort of story mode, but they haven't talked that much about it. I would hope they do. I think if they don't, they're definitely missing a trick. Multiplayer's cool and all that, but I know what I spent the majority of my time on in that, and it was the story mode, not the multiplayer. So here's hoping that they include that. Because otherwise, yeah, I agree, the game does look pretty good. So we'll see.
I was genuinely surprised by it. That's not the type of game I would ever play.
Yeah.
And yet, yeah, I mean, I got into it. I do agree, though. Like, at first, when you take on some people that know what they're doing, it's just, oh man, it's otherworldly. It's like, how have you done this? What are you even doing? But then, it is that classic thing, right? The more you play it, the more you sit down with it, and you start to realize, if I take my time, actually, I can be pretty good. But yeah, I spent literally 4 days playing that and walked away going, hey man, my eyes have been opened to a world I never knew that existed.
It's the exact opposite of every fighting game where you can button mash. You cannot button mash in this game.
No,
it's an impossibility. Your character will just be flailing wildly as you get destroyed.
Is it pretty slow paced, or
no? It's very fast paced.
Well,
it's the opposite.
Like Marvel versus Capcom fast paced.
It's fast paced, not in the visually fast paced, not in the actual actions of what you're doing. There's a strategy involved, but everything moves very fastly. So shit's flying around the level, and you have 6 people doing it. So now it's like, shh, and everyone looks amazing while they're zooming around in their Super Saiyan like abilities. But what you're doing in the game is very like, okay, what do I need to do here to this guy? How do we as a team get this other person? It's very much like World of Warcraft PvP, 3v3s in an arena, where it is a lot of strategy about how do we take out this one person. Because then once you do that, then the other team slowly starts to crumble, because like, okay, we've taken out one, now there's 2 left, and we can just gang up on them, and that's how we win. So it has that vibe of strategy on how do we get rid of the one person, and who is that one person we target, and how do we target them, and then the other 2 are going to respond like, oh, we know you're doing that, so we're going to come after your guys, that kind of stuff.
It's got like a rock paper scissors mechanic to it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So you have to try and figure out, well, I'm playing this guy, they're that guy, therefore I know this way. It is like a big puzzle. You slowly unravel the more you play, but then your opposition are also unraveling the puzzle. So you have this big back and forth where everyone's just trying to do the puzzle, but eventually you finish that puzzle and you understand the game, and then you never play it again. I guess that's where it ends. You just walk away.
Shout out to Square Enix for actually making characters from like old Final Fantasies awesome. Like Final Fantasy 1 and 2 characters are like shitting on real good about it. I'm like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, the other Dissidias were good about that as well. And it actually helped because they integrated story elements from those older games, which I didn't really know anything about. So that was pretty cool to get a little taste of that and to see the crossovers and things going on with it. So yeah, they're very they don't focus too hard on the later stuff. It seems like they give a good smattering across the whole thing. So I dig that. I'm happy to see it come out. Like I say, I do hope they do actually have a story mode, though. Be a bit disappointed if they didn't. Oh, kind of suck.
I literally didn't hear anything about that, so I don't
No,
know. But
they've
yeah,
been
it seems
a bit
strange if it's in
stum
the
on
last
it.
one.
Been a bit hush-hush right now, so we'll see. Speaking of fighting games, I played a bit more Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
I was gonna say, can we please talk about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite?
Before we
Gerard got the collector's edition, and it's the
Oh,
most hilarious
God.
shit in the world.
Yeah, as we discovered
In this
last
office,
week.
we have the collectors. It's in this office.
Could you go get it? Could you go show it to us?
Yeah, I'm gonna go steal it.
Oh,
right
get
now.
Hold on, I can do it. I'll do it. Or you? Okay.
Right, he's getting it. Yeah, so last week we mentioned there was a controversy surrounding the very expensive, like $200 collector's edition for this damn thing, which was supposed to come with 6 Infinity Stones that were all light up. It's like, oh, that's a really nice collectible. That's the kind of thing I put on the shelf. Thing finally arrives, and it turns out they're basically little Kinder eggs for all intents and purposes.
Not only that, he'll show you, but like they can't come out. They're
Yeah,
light
can't
with
move them.
half an eggshell on top of them.
Basically, this thing is
It's
utter
so
shit.
bad.
And we're about to
Okay.
find out. All right.
So are we saying this is cheap as chips then? That's what we're saying.
Yeah,
This is-
yeah, really
than-
bad merch.
Cheaper than the like 50 pence bag. This is like, all right. This is Chun-Li. So first off,
I'm so excited. I'm so
Comes with
excited.
some statues as well.
go online and go look at what you should have received. If anyone in chat's watching right now, there is a picture of like what shit should look like versus what we got. So this is Chun-Li on a little stand.
Okay.
First off, it looks like she's standing on Laffy Taffy. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's literally just like.
What is that? It's just a vomit green. Like,
More importantly, if you can see this, look at her eyes. Girl.
oh my
got-
god.
That's
She's got
horrendous.
full on like pink eye, like there's red around her entire eyes.
Someone did
It's
not wash their hands after going to the toilet.
That's what I'm saying. And the figures don't look bad, but they're everything. There's little tiny things where you're like, who
I mean,
made this?
bear in mind,
What?
this is the best part of it. The worst is yet to come.
I
So
cannot
then-
wait.
The thing that I was really excited for, the thing that I was like, maybe I'll get this, and I'm glad Gerard got it instead of me, was that they had the Infinity Stones. I was like, oh, Infinity Stones in a case, and the Infinity Stones, you could probably take them out and like put them in your own fucking gauntlet. I will be Thanos, and it'll be awesome. Yeah. So
There it
first
is.
you get this.
Holy fuck.
That is brilliant.
If you go online and look what they're supposed to look like, they're supposed to look like gems. Like
Gems.
Yeah, like with like edges and like
Easter eggs. You cannot remove them from this case.
They're probably only half an egg each as well.
And
Like,
when you
They
light them
are,
up,
for sure.
This is what it looks like, just glowing Easter eggs.
God, that is shit.
They're stuck in the box or the case.
Yep.
yeah, you
Yep.
can't take them out.
You can't take them out. This is the garbagiest garbage I've ever seen. It's terrible. Genuinely terrible.
It's like
And this
crappy
edition
disco
was what?
lights.
$200. for this
Yeah, Gerard
fucking
was like,
thing.
I spent a lot of money for this. Like it's
Gerard
funny,
made a
but
horrible mistake.
I spent a lot of money on this.
The worst part is every single platform, aside from the colors, because the Marvel side has
Red
red,
and orange.
orange, yeah. Besides the colors, is the exact same layout. There's the same piece of wood, the same like weird rocks at the bottom. It's the exact same thing. It's the late. If you go look at what you're supposed to receive, and it looks awesome. You're like, oh my god!
I mean,
this is gonna be the
it's-
coolest showpiece. No, it's
It's
garbage.
flagrant false advertising. You know what's interesting is if you look at that. So here's a render. Here's what you're supposed to get. I'm just sending it to everybody here. And if you look very closely, I'll see if I can bring it up on the screen for you. If you look real closely, you can see basically what the thing actually ends up looking like in the reflection of the top of the case. Like, so they're the Infinity Stones, but then, like, if you look at the reflection, it's just these little egg things. I'm like, wow, this is seriously deceptive marketing. This is really bad.
This is. I don't know how they've got away with. Are they getting away with this? Or is
I
somebody
hope
looking
not.
for
I'm
this?
thinking class action at this point. Small claims court for this shit. They should get a refund for it. It's horrible.
Yeah, you know what? I did not notice that until right now. That is
Yeah.
super smart. Is like, look at the
It's
actual
shady
gems.
shit.
They look like orbs. They look like there's little gemmy shits inside. But when you look at the actual reflection, it's those shitty eggs.
Yeah. It's
Crazy.
yeah,
I didn't even know
crashed
that.
Capcom website, lol. But there you go. Yeah, so as we've mentioned, that shit. The actual game, of course, has had a bunch of negative PR for a lot of reasons. I've played a bit more of it. It really feels like it's a game that deserved more time in the oven because the game feels fine. Like, it feels snappy, and the combos feel good, and it's a bit easier to play than the other Marvel vs. Capcom. It's got the auto combo button and things like that, and it's only 2v2, so you don't necessarily have to handle a bunch of crazy things you can do with 3 people. But, asset-wise, and character design-wise, and roster-wise, and just everything about it feels like it's a good game in a shitty box. And like, if it spent a good 6 months longer making a much better presented game, it would have been much more well received. The gameplay is good, but there were some really weird quotes around when they launched this thing. Don't show it. Kill it before it lays eggs. Actually, it's already laid eggs, hasn't it? That's a problem.
You're gonna have nightmares about that thing.
It's terrible. It's goddamn terrifying. Before launch, they were essentially like, oh, well, characters don't matter. They're just a framework for a set of skills. I'm like, I'm sorry, you're saying characters don't matter in a really character-focused roster fighter? You don't think people buy these games to play their favorite Marvel and Capcom characters? Are you actually brain dead?
I'm kind of torn because playing it, there are characters from past games in the background of a lot of different levels.
Yes, that's what we were talking about the other day. Yeah.
And part of me is like, oh, that's kind of cool that even though that character isn't like playable, they're still involved in the game. And then the other part of me is like, but this also just makes it even more obvious that so many characters are missing, that the roster is so small compared to the other games. It just feels weird.
That's what I don't get about it. I thought it was the whole point of these games. They used to go, man, look at that roster. You can literally have any fight in the world. And now they've gone, I don't know, here's like some, and here's a Kinder Egg. Just leave us alone. Just buy the game. just buy the game and go away. Like, leave us to. I don't get it.
The most insulting part is that the villain of the game is the combination of Sigma and Ultron Sigma, right? Yeah. But when you go to play multiplayer, only Ultron exists. Sigma is a DLC character you have to buy.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say something like that.
It's like, wait, what? Why? Why is that? He's the boss of the game. Why is he not in the game?
I mean, it would hardly be the first Capcom fighter to really do that, but it's down to like the roster it's weak. Like, compare it to just how many characters were in all the other games, and it's a hard sell because it's not even a great roster. If it was like the 28 fucking best of the best of we love these fucking characters, maybe I could understand that. But it's not. There's a bunch of shit in there that nobody cares about. There's 3 Guardians of the Galaxy in it, no X-Men because, of course, Fox, Disney's having a bit of a slap fight with Fox right now, so they don't want to include any X-Men characters and shit. And yeah, the DLC is obviously that's going to be a hard sell, and I think that when you're talking about characters as frameworks for skill sets, you are completely missing the point of what the majority of players want. Yes, at the pro end, you're right. You are right. That's what a lot of, at the pro end, people pick characters based on their ability sets, but we're not talking about the pro end. We're talking about the millions of people that will otherwise buy the game. And it seems like Capcom now, at least twice, probably more, has missed what the regular player wants out of a game like that, which is a solid story mode, a great roster, and a bunch of fun modes. And the game has a shitty story mode, at least it has one, which Street Fighter V didn't. The roster is weak, the presentation's not very good. So when you start talking about the competitive end of things, the competitive end of things is not what keeps these games alive. It's not what brings in the millions of players. And I look at a game like Tekken 7, which is quite a hard game, but it's still quite accessible. And I see how well that's doing, especially amongst casual players. I'm thinking, they kind of did it right. They sort of understood what players wanted, and Capcom is so obsessed with this competitive aspect that they seem to be forgoing everything else.
Yeah. Also, if you just take your time and go person by person through the roster, some of those models are fucking busted, and even the ones that aren't busted have hilarious voices sometimes.
Yeah, so it's
Morrigan, I think, is my favorite. Yeah, Morrigan's voice is like,
you're supposed to be like the sexy succubus, and she's like, "Oh, hello there, boy."
What? Lol. Okay.
Not even that. She doesn't even have that much energy to her voice. That's the worst part.
Oh, hello there, boy. Yeah, you're absolutely. It's a terrible voice.
Are you supposed to be seducing me right now? It's not. Oof.
Yeah, it's just not a game that I would buy right now. Like, wait till it goes on sale. It's not bad. It's not the worst fighting game in the world. I'm having a decent amount of fun with it. But
How many characters are for sale right now? Like DLC characters?
None. There were no on-launch characters. That would be a dick move. They've got like a couple of skins, but that's about it. They're supposed to be doing like 6 new characters or whatever over the next few months. But
Gotcha.
it's just, like I said, the roster's just so, yeah, you know, it just doesn't impress. It doesn't inspire any excitement in me.
And can we go back to the story mode for a moment?
We can, yes.
Playing through the story mode, I realized my biggest fear about the next 2 Avengers movies. Thanos as a bad guy literally is evil because he got friend zoned and couldn't handle it. Like, that's his plot line.
Right.
He tried to go out. Well, he was like, "Yo, death, baby, I want some of that." And she's like, "No, gross." He's like, "I'll kill everyone." That is literally that's the plot of the Infinity Gauntlet story. That's the plot of like this game. Like, dude can't handle rejection.
It's great. It's great. Everybody wants to bang death always. Like that's been a constant.
Sexy death. I mean, that was in the comics as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
People really into death.
You can relate to that too. We've all been spurned. We've all been knocked back.
I thought you meant everybody wants to bang death, and I was like, I mean, go ahead and pitch this, sure, Simon.
We've all been friend zoned.
That's the subtext, though. Of course, we all want to bang death and say, "Look, man, I don't really want to die. If you could just, do me a favor, that would be great."
Maybe we could work something out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is true though. Shout out to Deadpool being the first guy where Death's like, "Yo, I'm into this dude," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm weird."
So good. So the game has like these 6 Infinity Stones, and once you power them up, you can create a cosmic like zone. I think there should be a 7th one, and the cosmic zone should be the friend zone. And you create it, and suddenly, like, maybe you can't approach the enemy or whatever. It's like, no, you can't go anywhere near me. You're in the friend zone or whatever. What is happening over there? Those 2 are in the same office, by the way, and it sounds like some crazy shit's going down. What is happening?
We don't know. We don't know what's going on.
What do you mean you
There's
don't
a lot
know?
of yelling.
Okay.
They might be filming. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's a difficult recommend right now. Let me put it that way. Unless you're absolutely desperate for a fighting game. Yeah, it is. It's not like, I like Street Fighter 5 as well, but again, that was a hard sell and launch as well, because it's like, good, this is an incomplete product. Yeah, it's like, where the fuck is the $60 worth of game here? There isn't.
No.
That I have a little bit of worry there when it comes to, because of Street Fighter and because of Marvel vs. Capcom. Maybe it's just the fighting games and we're cool. I'm slightly worried about Monster Hunter when that releases and it being not done. Does that make sense? Like there being a lot left on the table or off the table?
I don't think like Capcom doesn't really have a rep for unfinished games, but their fighting games lately have been an issue.
That's what I'm saying.
I think
like,
Monster Hunter should be fine.
The last few games they've released have had that trend of like, well, there's a lot that's DLC that we're still working on. You're like,
I mean, Capcom does love its DLC. They were like the masters of on-disc bullshit DLC back in the day. I think they've got a bit better about it, but
right.
It can't be any worse than how they used to be. It's like, yeah, there's 6 characters. They're already on the disc. We're going to charge you for them. It's like, fuck off. But we'll see. It is a bit concerning, I will admit.
Was that Resident Evil 6 that they were really bad on? There was one game.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
6 was terrible. What a horrible.
But they had some bad DLC practices on 6.
I think it basically came out in the first week, right? I can't remember. I just remember some Resident game came out. I was like, this is ridiculous.
It was around like the 360 era that Capcom was mostly taking the piss in a big way with on-disc DLC.
Yeah.
But with that said, Resident Evil 7, they just threw DLC at you. They were like, there's more. This one's free. We got this thing too, and we're going to have more coming out. I think that's kind of neat. I like extra stuff that they aren't going to charge me an arm and a leg for.
It's not like, I don't have a problem with DLC. I just want it to be worth the money, and I don't want you to try and sell me something that I already know is on the disc. I don't want you to slice off content that's key to the story or whatever and try and sell it to me later. So yeah, it's we'll see. I'm a bit worried for Marvel vs. Capcom, especially since it doesn't have crossplay. I'm really worried. Like in a month, this game's gonna have difficulty finding players on PC. So still waiting for that goddamn Steam version of Killer Instinct. That's a fucking great fighting game. Talk about good practices for that. That's basically free, and then you buy the characters you want, or buy the full edition for like $30, which I think is a nice deal. That's good. It's got a good roster as well. But it's on Windows 10 store, and nobody plays it there. So, if we could have it on Steam, please. Yeah, I'd be really, really happy with that. All right, Dodger. You're looking slightly concerned there, worried that, the door might be battered in any moment by a horde of Vikings or something. But
Right?
it is possible. Now you tell me a little bit about what you've been playing, Sweet. What's been going on?
So I was asking Jesse, I couldn't remember whether or not I talked about that first tree game. The one with the fox.
You mentioned it. I think it came up in the releases like last week or the week before.
Yeah, so that game wound up being mostly a walking simulator.
Not unexpected.
It was pretty, like, it was basically made by one dude, I think, who didn't know how to program or anything when he started it. It was just like a passion project. So with that in mind, I'm impressed. It's entirely like the whole time you play as this fox and you go through lots of different areas that represent like different, like one's a snowy area, one's an autumn area, one's like spring, right? And throughout the whole time that you're walking around as this fox, you're hearing a story at the same time that is a guy who wakes up from a dream that he has about his dad, and he's throughout the entire game he's talking with his significant other or wife or whatever. He's talking with her about the sort of tense relationship that he's had with his dad his whole life, and like talks about their relationship and some stories from when he was a kid and stuff. And so it sort of progresses to become like why he would be dreaming about his dad in the first place and all of this stuff. The game didn't take that long, but I do have to say, I think that it was in terms of what you were doing in the game, it was a bit too repetitive for how long it went. I thought that the story that the guy was telling and the sort of anecdotes that he was discussing with his wife, I thought that all of that was interesting. But the fact that as this fox, you were literally just like, here's a new area, and there's a couple little like shiny things that you can see in the distance. You walk to a shiny thing. You walk to a shiny thing. You walk to a shiny thing.
Yeah.
And now you're in a new area. You walk to a shiny thing. You walk to a shiny thing, right? Like that stuff.
That's the worst part of like walking simulators when they do that.
I spaced out super hard. If they weren't telling the story, I was just like, all right.
It's
all
at that point where you're like,
I'm walking.
why is this a game? Like, was a game the best medium you could have used to tell the story? Because it sounds like the answer is no.
Right. And again, this was like first game, dude on his own wanted to make this. And I think for like keeping that in mind, I thought that it was, I liked it. I liked the whole idea of it. I think that there should have been more for you to do. And I think that what you were doing as the fox should have felt like, in the end, it did feel connected to what was going on in the story, but it should have felt a little bit more metaphorical or a bit more like they were directly connected in some way,
right?
Yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I just thought that it was a little slow paced for how long it was.
Fair.
So I did finally play that because everybody was like, you got to play this game. There's fucking foxes in it.
Yeah, because, you're basically defined by a couple of things. Coffee, cats, and foxes. Other than that, you're not actually a real human. So
I don't have anything else going on in my life. Like, at least everybody knows
boil
that.
down a couple of basic elements.
You don't need anything else.
So you can shove you in an easy box, and that'll be fine. What else have you been playing?
So I also played, I can't remember if we ever talked about a normal lost phone on this show.
Yeah, we mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, I played a normal lost phone a while back when that came out, and that was entirely a game about like you pick up a phone and you go through it, and using like context clues instead of text messages and emails and things, you try to unlock more and more things that are on the phone in order to find out information about the person who owned it.
Yeah.
So they made another one that's called Another Lost Phone, Laura's Story.
Yes.
And it's not a sequel. I think that's important to say. It's not a sequel. It's just the same people who made the first one saying, okay, we've made one of these like traipsing through somebody's phone games before. We have an idea for a new one, but we're going to tighten up how we do it.
Yeah.
So it's a bit cleaner. It took me, I think, 2.5 hours, something like that.
Okay.
But I thought it was honestly really, really good. The dialogue was much more believable. Like the text messages between people felt more natural. I think that was one of the things that was jarring in A Normal Lost Phone, was there were so many conversations that felt like exposition, right? It was like, how is your brother? Oh, you mean my brother who is a doctor? Yes, how is your doctor brother?
Right.
Did he finish his degree? Right? Like those kind of conversations.
Not
where you're
like real
okay.
human conversations actually would, you know?
Yeah. The story in Another Lost Fern.
Need a lift, friend?
The story in Another Lost Phone, I think, it's pretty easy to see coming, but at the same time, it's told really, really well. And I think like the message of it and the way that they went about it and the pacing of like figuring out different things and finding new stuff in the phone was done really well. So yeah, I loved it. I don't know if Jesse, did you wind up playing this one yet?
Not the new one, no. But I like the old one. I like the concept of the lost phone, and you find it, and there's something interesting going on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason I so very, very much loved. I'm gonna look up the name before I screw this up. The Mr. Robot.
Yeah. I heard some really good stuff about that Mr. Robot phone game.
Mr. Robot Mystic Messenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is.
Where you get to date all the robots, right? That's the one.
No, Dodger. That's just your weird weeb
sorry.
thing. No.
It takes place.
I'm misunderstanding.
I think season 1 and season 2, or maybe it takes place between whatever the case may be. It takes place in the world, and you find a phone that is used by one of the characters in the show, and so it's all about hacking and like questioning reality and shit. It's pretty cool, and I love that. Not only do you get the main story of the main character, because it operates off of like standard time, so whatever time zone you exist in, your daytime is that daytime.
That's
and
cool.
So yeah, you get messages from people during the day, and maybe at night you might not get some, or maybe overnight you get like a thing will pop up and it'll be like there's all sorts of different chats going on. And it's kind of like, well, if the person's phone who you think this is this, then why is this person involved in these other chats that seem superfluous, but have like a very dark undertone to it? And you're like, what is this about? And there's like a group chat and everyone's celebrating a birthday party, and they're like, how do we get to this? But it's like, wait, why would this character be on there? Like, this doesn't make sense. There's some cool levels to it. And then you can respond and play along. And you can, there are many, many ways to play. And I love that one of them is literally like, what is this? Who is this? Why are you doing this? What's happening here? This is stupid. And everyone's like, what's the matter with you? It's great.
That was one of the things that, and I got pretty bored with Mystic Messenger pretty quickly, but that was one of the things that I thought was interesting about it, is that it operated on whatever your time was. Did you, with the Mr. Robot one, I probably asked you this before, but we talked about it so long ago, but the Mr. Robot one, if you didn't check a text message in time, did it kind of punish you in a way? Like if you checked it immediately, were you able to like respond? But if you checked it too late, you couldn't make the same responses, or you couldn't respond at all?
I do not. I mean, there was times I woke up and there'd be a message like waiting for me, and I'd be like, okay, I don't know, this was sent overnight, and I respond. And I think it's less based off of, if there's any punishment, it's not like you didn't respond right away, so you don't get certain choices.
You don't get the info. Yeah.
I think it's more like, if you take a while to get back, they'll take a while to get back to you. And so, and then there's also moments where even if you are very much like, I'm into this, I'm playing, this is crazy, a person's trying to sneak into a place and I'm helping them, and then they're like, okay, I'll get back to you. And then you don't hear anything from them for like 3 days. You're like, oh, what's happening right now? And so it does that to you too. It kind of fucks with you. And then the guy's like, hey, I'm at home right now. And you're like, what? Where were you? But it's a game and not real. And you are a crazy person when you feel the same way.
I do think that kind of a thing where it's like they're aware that you're involved and that you're there, and they give you like tasks and things to do. That makes a bit more sense than A Normal Lost Phone and Another Lost Phone, where at a certain point in the game, you're like, why am I still fucking snooping in this person's phone? Like, why haven't I? And I think I'm trying to remember, in A Normal Lost Phone, could you look at the person's contacts? Because in another lost phone you can't, and I think that they did that so that it wasn't like, why don't I just call somebody?
Yeah, yeah. I always do the same. Even when I played the Mr. Robot game, I had that idea of just like, if I had found this phone and the first few messages I got were like as crazy as the first messages of this, I'd be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna just leave this here.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the garbage and leave forever.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna turn this phone off. Is what I'm gonna do. Maybe bash it a little bit and then throw it. Like, don't track my ass. Yeah,
can break the SIM card and take out the battery and fucking burn it.
Okay, haunted phone.
Terrifying thing. Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's short, and I honestly think at the end, pretty much all of us were going, that was a really good, like, that was really well done. So, yeah.
Cool. Glad to hear it.
I really enjoyed that one.
Yes.
Dodger, did you finish Cat Quest?
I didn't finish it. No, I played it kind of casually on my phone. I never really like sat down and played it, you know.
For a game that on the surface looks like it shouldn't be nearly as fun as it is, turns out Cat Quest, I just beat it on a stream the other day. It's like incredibly charming, very fun, at least on the PC where you can like dodge roll and things are a little more fast. But there's also like a meta game. There's like a meta story to the whole thing where it's like, oh, yes, we're cats and we're in a land of like cat dragon bloods and like we're fighting monsters and shit. But also this takes place after humanity has ended. Like there's a meta story to it, which is like, ooh. And so there's kind of a little bit more going on. And it's
I love how many stories that are like, why is the world seeming to be totally normal populated with this type of creature? It's always like, oh, because humanity is fucking dunzo because they all blew up and now we rule the earth.
And even though the story is like super silly and dumb, it's like, oh, well, it makes sense because humans made that happen and now this is why this is the way it is. And then they're all dead.
And now cats rule the world because they have 9 lives. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Although there are many jokes that are like, oh, I'm on my 8th life, let me tell you. And you're like, oh, shut up, cat. But it's very fun, but I think definitely suffers from that. It probably was designed for mobile first. And so it's a lot.
Was it? I thought it was PC first.
No.
I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure it was mobile first.
For PC.
Almost certain. But I could be wrong. But, you know, you were mentioning when you played this game a couple of weeks ago, and bear in mind, no one expected this to be any good, because, like, Cat Quest, well, that sounds like shovelware bullshit.
It looks really basic.
Turns out it's not.
That's a terrible name.
Yeah, it is. It's a terrible name, and it doesn't inspire confidence. It actually ended up being good. But if I recall, you're playing on your phone, and, like, they just kind of taken out the dodge mechanic entirely, because you couldn't do it with a touchscreen. So they kind of put that in the PC version, as far as I can tell. So they had to alter it a bit for it to work properly. But a surprising amount of good response to this thing. You both played it. You both seem to like it. Everyone has played it seems like, oh, this is better than expected.
I now kind of want to play it too.
Yeah, give it a shot. It's available on mobile and on PC, and apparently it's all right.
Customization you can do to your character, because each bit of equipment you get changes things so drastically that you can make like a mage character or a warrior character or whatever. And you're just a little cat, but you can also change up your equipment to be a little bit of both, like a battle mage. You can there's a lot of secrets the devs have hidden in the game. So one of the things we found was a cave in the middle of nowhere that if you completed it, it was a cave that had a bunch of traps and a bunch of like hidden things. But if you got to the very, 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 very end, there was a weapon that had no model. So literally just using your fist, and it's the strongest weapon in the game. And it was, I think it was called like Determination, or like something about the name was just like, yeah, don't you understand? Right. It's me who's the strong one. It was great. And I just went around beating guys up with my fists.
Cat fists, all right? You're still a cat.
Yeah,
so you're a cat. Fists, you're always a cat.
If one were to ball up their paws, would those be fists or still paws?
Exactly. I got confused.
It's a good question, isn't it?
Someone in chat asked why I could walk on water in the game, if you're looking at the footage, because I unlocked the ability to walk on water. That's, I mean, later on you unlock the ability to fly, and flying literally is you flap your hands, and that's how the cat takes off and flies. You know, as cats do.
Good to see where
I love
Keeping to realism.
the way that you get health back is you just take a nap and the character
fall
literally
over.
just falls over. It's so funny.
That's good stuff.
Man, I'm sold on Cat Quest. I never thought I'd say
It's
that
cute.
sentence.
You'd be
That's a
surprised how many
brand new
times that
sentence
happens.
for me.
Yeah,
It's a very
every time this damn game comes up on the show, whoever the guest is like, I should try this. I'm like, yeah. We're just like evangelizing Cat Quest for some reason. I don't know why.
And what's smart about the game is any items you get, rather than it be like, I got a hat of awesomeness, and oh, I got another hat of awesomeness, I guess I have to sell one. All it does is it levels up the current hat of awesomeness that you have by a few levels. So now it's even more powerful. And you're like, oh, it's everything I ever wanted. Yeah. So
It's a good way to
Makes it
avoid
really
having
convenient.
junk in your inventory. It's a pretty smart idea.
Yeah.
Good
That
stuff.
sounds great. I'm sold on a game called Cat Quest. My whole world's just changed. My
Yep.
whole persona is going to have to take a huge 90-degree
You're
turn.
This
Welcome.
podcast, it has some strange effects on the people that come here. All right, folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking more about the games that we've been playing this week. There's plenty more on the docket. Don't worry. God, more than we could probably cover, but we'll give it a shot anyway. Our sponsor for today's show is Squarespace. Squarespace.com/cooptional for 10% of your first order and a free trial. Make your next move with Squarespace. Find out why with this wonderful and totally realistic ad. We'll be right back after the break with more games discussion here on the Co-Optional Podcast. We shall now press this button. There we go. Look, if the internet has taught us anything, it's that harebrained, ill-conceived, half-baked ideas are the key to success. This new bold age of technology has given us previously unimaginable ways to communicate even the stupidest of ideas across the entire planet in a matter of seconds. Got a new smart product that nobody needs? Crowdfund it. Bursting at the seams to deliver a hot take on the latest industry news? Blog it. Itching to start a global thermonuclear war? Tweet about it. Oh, God. There's one thing that hasn't changed, though, and that's the need to present your ideas to an audience and do it in a stylish, impressive fashion. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you think you're very stylish and impressive. That anime t-shirt in particular. Talk about cutting katana edge of businesswear there, but you have to understand that some less enlightened individuals won't see it that way. That's why you should convince them with a beautiful website from Squarespace. Choose from a huge assortment of professionally designed templates suitable for any purpose. Blogs, galleries, storefronts, product pictures. Squarespace's awesome-looking designs will have you up and running in minutes, and a suite of specially designed plugins can help you quickly integrate the functionality you need without all the complexity. You can try it yourself over at squarespace.com/cooptional and get 10% off your first order along with a free trial. We've seen some fairly ridiculous things as of late that probably shouldn't be happening. The smart Wi-Fi enabled salt shaker, a shark dating sim, Northern Lion's continued career, Dodger branded coffee beans. I mean, good lord, who would be foolish enough to buy YouTuber branded coffee? That has to be one of the most ridiculous, ill-conceived, terrible ideas in the history of...
Hey!
No matter how bad your idea, make it real with Squarespace. Make sure you get an awesome domain that everyone will remember, like .gripe. No, seriously, you can get a .gripe domain. No, I'm not kidding. That actually exists. Squarespace is even selling it with the convenience of Squarespace domains. A couple of clicks, no setup required, and your brand new .gripe domain name is ready to go for some reason. What a selling point! Everyone will take you seriously with that one. Create your own professional-looking website with no experience required at squarespace.com/cooptional and grab 10% of your first order. Make your next move with Squarespace, because no idea is a bad idea when it's presented in the right way. Except that whole nuclear war thing. Maybe knock that off. We don't mind. Please. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-Optional Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed the sounds of Miracle of Sound with Duke He Used to Be Cool, which it did, and he was, and he's not anymore. So that's really kind of unfortunate, isn't it? Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, thankfully, there's a bunch of other games that are cool. I actually played one last night on stream, as it happens. It's called Ruiner. It's out today.
Oh yeah. How was that?
Oh, it's a tricky game, but I think it's right up your alley, because, I mean, you beat Fury, right? If I recall correctly. Well, there are some comparisons, I think, to be made between Ruin and Fury. It's set in a dystopian cyberpunk setting. It's one of those sort of ultra-hard, top-down-ish sort of games. A lot of dodging, a lot of countering, a lot of evasion. But you happen to have an awful lot of firepower. You know, one thing I didn't really like about Fury, well, I mean, some people liked, some people didn't, is that Fury, you got your whole skill set right off the bat. You know, you had a sword, and you could reflect stuff, and, you know, that's pretty much about it, you know, and you had that skill set, and that's what you had to work with. Well, Ruiner, you've got a lot of different loot items, you've got a lot of different skills you can use, and as a result, there's a lot of variety in the game, sort of right off the get-go. So it's essentially a top-down twin stick with some melee elements and a lot of dodging around. And you're in this dystopian town. For some reason, you have a screen for a face. I don't know why, but you do.
Great. Some saga shit.
Yeah, definitely something like that. They'll probably use that to put dank memes in front of everybody's face or something. I don't know if dank memes are a useful skill that could be used in this game, but it's possible. It's later down the tech tree. I haven't quite seen it yet. And you have this little hub area full of interesting, weird, dystopian, cyberpunk-like characters, and you go on hunts and bounties and kill certain people and go through these dungeon-like levels. And the whole thing is very much a moment-to-moment, action-packed, make sure you dodge at the right time or you're dead, make sure you use your shield at the right time or you're dead, but very satisfying twin-stick shooter. And what I really like about it is there's a lot of weapon variety. They do the whole Hotline Miami thing, where your weapons have a limited ammo or durability, so you're always picking up a lot of new stuff. What's neat is you can get better versions of those weapons that have more ammo. So it's like, oh, this is like a rare version of it, so it's got like an ammo count that's triple the size, so you get to hang on to it for a longer. And I've seen a lot of weapon variety even within the first hour or so of the game. Melee weapons and ranged weapons. Big flamethrowers, big disc launcher that was really awesome, various kind of guns, a freeze ray, a laser that bounces off things, various types of shotguns. I do like a game that has a variety of shotguns in there, and this one seems to have that. And it's tricky. Definitely tricky. I fought a couple of bosses last night. One of them, the guy with the disc launcher, was definitely kicking my ass. There are some times in the game where I feel like the damage output of the thing is kind of crazy and you're likely to die in one hit. And they also like to hide these little shotgun traps just out of your field of view. So you walk into them and they shoot and then you die. And it's
Son of a bitch.
Fucking bastards. You know, they're a bit mean about that. The one thing that kind of threw me off, which took a bit of getting used to, but I did get into it eventually, is a lot of twin sticks are very much top-down. You're sort of in the center of the screen. This... You're sort of at a weird off-axis angle, and it makes it feel like where you're aiming your shots isn't actually where you're aiming your shots, so it felt the controls initially felt a bit weird. I tried playing with mouse and keyboard, I wasn't into it. The controller was a lot better, certainly. And initially it felt a bit sluggish, but after about 20 minutes I got the hang of it, and I was really getting into it. There's a lot of dashes that you can chain together. You can even like go into sort of bullet time and queue up multiple dashes to get to a certain location, do some kind of tactical stuff. And as a result, the action feels really awesome and slick and very Hotline Miami-esque, but just with a lot of weapons, cyberpunk setting, really awesome soundtrack, excellent aesthetic. It's good. From what I can tell, really, really good. I think it'll be up your alley, Dodger. You're into the harder games.
Great music can get you through really frustrating fights.
Oh, Fury is that game in a nutshell. Holy shit,
right?
It was so hard.
Dude, the Fury soundtrack is so good. I always felt like, all right, I have to do this fight again, but it's okay because the music is banging. Like, if that's the case with this game, then yeah.
It is that, definitely. The weird sort of, Fury was very much just boss fights. This is a lot of dungeon crawling and little side quests and things, so very different in that respect.
I kind of loved that about Fury, though. I loved that it was just, here's what you got, here's a fight, and now here's a fight, and now here's a fight. It was very straightforward. It was very focused. Yeah,
they cut all the fat in that game. That game is just that, and fixated on that very small ability set and using it to perfection. This, if you're into the loot and stuff like that, and I am, then there's a lot of that. And there's a lot of skill options as well. There's a ton of different skills. You can swap them out, and they all have a lot of multiple levels. You sort of, through this society, your worth as a person is defined by your karma, and you're rewarded by society for doing certain things, which includes murder, apparently, for some reason. And the higher your karma level, the more stuff you get access to and all that kind of thing. It's, I don't think there's a lot of originality in the game in terms of the game mechanics. A lot of games play like this. But this plays well. It's slick. It'll certainly find a streaming audience, because I know there's that audience of people that really loves the ultra hard, boss-oriented games, and this is definitely one of those.
I like the name. I like Ruiner and Fury is what all games should be called.
Indeed.
Names like that. Like Cat Quest sounded great, but Ruiner and Fury win me over just from the. I play a game called Ruiner.
Yeah.
I feel like you'll enjoy Cat Quest more though.
No. Cat Quest Fury: The Reckoning.
I'd play that. Hell yeah.
Some good stuff. Some good stuff. Yeah, so I enjoyed that a lot. That's out today, as it happens. Cool. Quite a few good games coming out today. It's out on console and it's on PC. I got to play it a bit last night, and I was into it. Totally into it. Simon, you said you were at EGX, so I know you were working primarily with Squeenix. Did you get a chance to play anything else while you were there? They're exhibiting some pretty cool stuff, I heard.
I deliberately went out my way to try that Mario Odyssey demo that everyone's been playing.
Yeah? What do you reckon?
Because it's just... I'm constantly, this is going to sound like an idiot, but I don't care. But I'm constantly fascinated and in awe of the way that Nintendo can make me feel like a child. Like that is, that's no big surprise. That's not a big shock or a big, oh, wow, what's this crazy opinion you have on Nintendo? Yeah. But it just amazes me that when they actually do sit down and go, right, guys, it's time to make a proper Mario game that will establish our console and people will constantly look back to it. Because when the names got so weird, when new Super Mario Brothers 3D, whatever the
3D for Wii U, you are like, oh God, I'm confused. Where am I?
Exactly. When that came out, it was fine. And it was like, yeah, this is a fun Mario game. But then when they did 3D World, which was their proper, this is meant to be a Mario game, I was like, oh, it's wonderful. And it's just, this one tops even that still, because it's just bizarre to play a Mario game that, I mean, I know they've always had big levels, but these levels are huge. And that's just not what it just feels very strange for a Mario game to have these massive hub areas. But the way they just litter it with little things to make you smile and laugh and just have a lovely time. I mean, we should all be like pointing and laughing at Mario Odyssey because the whole point is now his hat is alive. I mean, that's it.
Right.
That's the whole premise of the game. And yet you start using the hat and you're like, I'm so happy his hat's alive. Why hasn't his hat always been alive? I can jump on the hat and I can put the hat on other things. And it's like being on some roller coaster that's made of marshmallows or something. It's just a wonderful one. There's nothing sort of super different there. If you played a Mario game before, you're not going to be taken, it's not going to surprise you in any sense. But it's so well made and it looks so good. And my demo lasted about 20 minutes. And as soon as it was done, I was like, I'll even play that section again if you'll give me the time, because it's just nice and effortless and fun. And you also know once you get into it, it's going to be, well, I hope so anyway. I hope it's going to be hard as nails. That's all. Still to this day, even with Nintendo's obsession with the casual market, you always get to a certain point in their proper Mario games where they go, right, now we're going to whoop your ass. Let's see if you can do this. And that balance is just, it's lovely. And it feels so good on the Switch because, again, the Switch is just, I'm a big fan of the Switch.
Yeah, so I think we're all like Switch converts here. If we were not convinced before it, we're definitely into it now. It's like, oh God, this is just really convenient and does everything we want to do.
So that was just, I mean, it's, again, whatever you think it is in your head is what the game is, but it looks lovely. It plays well. It's awesome on the the handheld when you're in handheld mode and stuff. And yeah, I just walked away going, well, I'm buying that in October. It's like, that's a simple purchase to make. So yeah, I deliberately went out my way to play that. I didn't play this at EGX, but something I did want to bring up when you were talking about Ruiner just in the weapons. I did manage to get an hour with Wolfenstein 2.
Ooh, yeah. A lot of us looking forward to that one.
Well, that's the thing, because you mentioned about how, there's loads of guns and they're awesome to use.
Yes.
That is why Wolfenstein 2 is just so awesome. There are so many guns. I know we all did this in the New Order. So it's not like a big surprise. But the fact they just go, you want to dual wield any of the guns? Yeah, that's cool. And you want like 42 guns? Yeah, fine. And it's wonderful because it reminds you, and I think for a while shooters completely forgot that the whole point is shooting a gun is meant to feel really good. Yes. But that just went out the window entirely. Wolfenstein 2 not only brings that back, but it's like, oh, we need to make up for like 10 years of nobody doing this. And I know they did that, like, say, a few years ago, but it is so good here. And there were so many sort of action-packed spics where you're just getting absolutely run over by enemy after enemy, but you've got like your shotgun in your left hand and you've got your machine gun in your right hand. You're just slamming triggers, till the cows come home. You're like, I'm awesome. I'm an awesome human being right now as people just explode and blood goes everywhere. I mean, like I say, it's a sequel in every sense of the word. But it is great. I mean, it is really, really good fun. And like I say, and then at the end of the demo, you get on one of those Panzer Hounds or Huns, whatever it's called, and you just run around setting people on fire.
Yeah.
You're like, thanks, Bethesda. I'll go home now. So that I just wanted to throw that in there because I can't think of a game that I honestly can't think of a game actually right now on especially PS4, Xbox One. I look over here as I say this to make sure I'm correct. No, I think I'm right. That feels as good to shoot. Maybe Doom.
Yeah. Pretty much Doom.
What was I saying after E3? Best demo they had there.
Yeah.
But Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah.
And PAX West is best demo there too. The Wolfenstein New Colossus demo is incredibly fun. And you played a different one. I played one where you're in a wheelchair and you have to roll around with a gun under your lap and you have to shoot guys. It's incredible.
There's a lot of cool variety in it. We saw the sequence with the LSD trip. Like they could pull off some crazy stuff with that. Even the first game had a lot of it. It was so interesting. I love the fact the first game is a giant power fantasy, but it's still got a bunch of characters you can care about, and it's this cool globe-trotting adventure. That's another thing that's been missing from FPS for a while. It's like, I want to go all over the world, see really cool locations, and have all these different levels, and feel free to theme them in certain ways, but don't take away the fact that it's still a shooter. Like, COD did a lot of that. It's like, oh, you can do this cool thing, but it's like actually not really a cool thing, because you're on rails for the whole thing, and it's just you actually shooting things. Like, oh, we get to pilot a helicopter. No, you just get to be a door gunner and kind of hold the button down. So, it is quintessentially a shooter at its core, and it hasn't forgotten that.
Absolutely. That is why it's so much fun to play, because what do you do in a shooter? You shoot things.
Absolutely.
So it's like, if you're still like, I was an hour in and I was still finding different ways to, team up my guns and what they could do. And obviously, because it was a demo, they let you level the absolute crap out of them to begin with. So they're well over powerful.
Mod the hell out of them. Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't even do that much in the demo. There was like an outside bit, then there was a factory bit, then there was a cutscene with two people banging because it's Wolfenstein.
It's Wolfenstein, sure.
You have to include. And then, like I say, you finished it just running around on a giant robot dog. Mm-hmm. But it was just, the whole point was every time you smashed the right trigger, you were like, oh, man.
You just grin. You just fucking grin. I used to love using the dual automatic shotguns. Like, I'm dual-wielding automatic shotguns. And I just lit the place up. It's like, oh, this feels so good. This is never going to get boring. That will definitely be my of the many games that are coming in November. That's the one that's like I'm going to specifically put time aside to make sure I can play this whole thing because the first one was that good. Is it November? I mean, probably. It's got to be right. It's coming out this year.
November, yeah. It's the next 8 weeks or so.
Yeah, dude, every kill in this game looks so satisfying.
It says October 27th on here, which is
close enough to November, but yeah, I'll take that. That's a month away. Yeah.
Another game that I will be gone for. Table flip, whatever.
Well, you did insist on going to Australia for a month for some stupid
It is
reason.
Australia, though. I'll be fine. I feel like I'll be okay.
You'll be eaten by snakes. Just saying.
If you're going to die, it might as well be by snake eating.
Indeed.
Might as well get punched to death by kangaroos.
Yep.
Murdered
by drop bears.
Snakes. They're like, we're trying to help you.
Never see him coming. Never see him coming. You can go on the Switch. Jesse, you can play on the Switch. I mean, I don't know how good an experience it's going to be, but that game's going to be available on the Switch. Take your Switch with you.
Cool. I think it's cool that Bethesda putting Doom on there as well.
Yeah.
I think Doom is just what a video game that was.
Absolutely.
I love that game. I will buy that again for Switch. The other thing I like about Wolfenstein as well, again, nothing different from the first one, it's so damn hard, but it's hard in a good way. Like you put it on those hard and difficult levels, and it really tests you. And I just, especially when it's got that whole sneaking mechanic as well. Now, I don't massively want to sneak in Wolfenstein, but I do think it's really well implemented. I do think it never feels cheap, and it feels like if you're smart and take your time, you can actually be a bit tactical with it as well. It's a damn good video game.
Yep, it is. Then you can play it in little bits of different ways there as well. And apparently they've fleshed out the stealth a little bit in the way that the commandos call in reinforcements and stuff like that. So you want to go all sneaky beaky like you can, or just go in there with the dual wield shotguns and eat people with them. Seems good too.
Always
all
that
right.
way.
Someone else, what you got? Toss it in the ring. See how it fares. Somebody?
I played for a sponsored stream. I played a game called Autoage Standoff.
Okay.
And it's a car battle game.
Okay.
And it was really felt like the way that it feels to drive these cars around is really, really tight. It's super responsive, and it's very like 80s cartoon in how it presents itself. The music is amazing. The music is so good. But you just like build up a loadout of a car and you go in. There's deathmatch, there's team deathmatch, and there's capture the point. and you can have small cars, medium-sized cars, or big cars. And yeah, and you just fucking like kill all the other cars, just blow up all the other cars, and it's really, really fun and satisfying to play. It's super simple, but again, good music always helps. So just like running around in this car, blowing up other cars to great music.
I'm seeing that 80s vibe you're talking about there. It's very kind of Tron-like, a little bit of Far Cry Blood Dragon there with like the neon lines and the wireframe, everything going on.
Yeah, like the bad guy of the like story of the game is named Darkjaw.
Sure, yeah, that sounds about right.
That kind of stuff.
why is it called Darkjaw? He has a very dark jaw. Like, oh, that's very intimidating, yes.
Yeah, and then the main girl, will sometimes be like Dorkjaw, more like, it's that kind of.
I can see why this game appeals to you. It's just as unfunny as you are.
It's great. It's all dad jokes all day.
Pretty much. Okay.
Yeah, the like, in terms of building the cars, it's pretty simple. The sort of things that are available to you to like outfit the cars is limited, but you can feel the difference for sure depending on how you build your car. In terms of like how much speed you wind up getting if you choose different chassis and things like that. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. So again, keep in mind, I was paid to play it, but I was delighted. I was delighted when I started playing. I was like, this is actually really fun. So
cool. Glad to hear that. Jesse, if we're going to go on the sponsor shilling stuff, you played a Fortnite Battle Royale for a sponsored stream. We're going to be talking a little bit about that later when we talk about Bluehole's interesting statement regarding PUBG and Epic Games.
We're going to talk about Blueholes later.
Yes, indeed.
Anyway, Jesse, so
there's too many jokes, yeah.
Since
we're doing the shilling thing, yeah. Fortnite Battle Royale, which is out today and it's free, or is it tomorrow? Yes. Something like that.
26th. It's today. It's free. You don't need original Fortnite to play it, and it is a 100 people jump out of a flying magic school bus.
Yeah, that was interesting seeing that. It's like, it's a bus with a balloon. What's going on with that?
Whatever. And you jump out of a school bus and you fly down to an island, and then last one to live wins. And it is the exact same mechanics of Fortnite. So you have the many, many, many guns that you can find. And then of all those guns, there are the common, uncommon, rare, and legendary version of those guns.
Yeah.
Then there is the building blocks you can use to make shelters and build up different defensive positions and things. And then you run around and you try to kill the other people, and then you can take all their items and then keep yourself alive and try to win. I am not like I've never been on this battle royale craze. Like last week when you guys were talking about it, I was like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't give a damn. After having played this though, I honestly truly understand why people care a lot about these and why they're so popular. I get it now. And before I was like, I don't care because I didn't play it. Now having played it, I
why
totally
do you
understand.
think it is that's really why this is like the latest craze, I guess, when it comes to game modes that people really want?
Well, I think it is less. I mean, even though it's a PvP game, it's a player versus player. It's 100 people, but it's less about them and more about you and your personal experience and your personal skill and learning from the mistakes you made and being like, all right, well, I goofed that time, but I can immediately leave this game because I'm dead and go find another, jump in and try a new strategy and try to find something else to work on. And maybe like this time I'll go to this part of the map, or this time I'll do this, or maybe I'm going to jump out right at the beginning and kill as many people as like
and you get like, might get a completely different loadout this time. He finds different items right off the bat. Yeah.
And
that's what I got out of like my limited experience with PUBG as well. It's like, oh, every time I drop, it's a bit different. I don't know what I'm going to find next.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that someone, my very first time ever playing, I was like, well, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna do what I would normally do in a situation like this, which is like go off to the furthest part of the map and try to stay alive rather than try to kill people. And so by doing that, I got to like 11th place out of 100 and was like,
Oh yeah,
What?
you could totally
Idiot.
do that just by being a giant coward in those games. As
Yeah,
long as you
and I was
stand
like,
inside
all
the
right,
blue
well, let's
circle and
see what
don't die.
happens if I start to really engage people. And so I started playing, and the first time I got slaughtered. I think it was like 48th or something, and I like went in. But as I kept playing, and I only played admittedly for like 2 hours, but as I kept playing, by the time I got to I'm not going to spoil the ending of the video, but like by the time I kept going, I was like gunning down dudes. I like understood the strategies of like what to build and where, and how you can, even if you build stuff and use it as a lore, because people are like, oh well, someone was here because they built a thing. Then you can like trap them in it and be like, what up, bitch, and like kill them. I
was going to ask about the building element. Like, it seems a bit out of place. I saw like
about that too.
I saw some person literally building a wall in the middle of a firefight, which seemed like a really like what the fuck kind of thing to have happen. It's like,
yeah. So there's a Minecrafty element to Fortnite, the original game, where you can destroy anything in the world, and then you can use those resources to build up defenses and traps. And in this, you can't build traps, so you can find traps and place them.
Okay.
So if you get them from like loot chests or whatever, you can use them. And so in one of my games, I managed to get into the final circle. So it very much has that like battle royale thing where a circle closes you in, so you have to keep fighting each other. And I used it to the point where I figured out where the next circle would be, like set up a trap within the area people would have to run in to get to the circle, and kill like 2 people that way. And it felt so good to be like, oh, that was clever, right? And so there's a element in the game where you can just destroy everything, and you can use all of those items to build wood, brick, and steel shelters for yourself, or places to place traps, or whatever the case may be. And so in this, they've limited what you can do, so it isn't like you're spending your whole time building, because there wouldn't be a game maybe lasts, I'm sure, as you know,
also,
like 15 minutes.
It wouldn't make any sense either. Like, this is the weird thing about it. It's like, it's a game where you constantly have to be on the move because of the blue circles, but then you're talking about building, which is an element of permanence. You don't want those two things. So have they found like a happy middle ground there?
Well, yeah, because the building goes much faster, and there's only a limited number of things you can build. You can build a flat thing. You can build a wall. Not a floor, because I guess it counts as ceiling, but whatever the flat, either floor or ceiling you can build. You can, or a ledge if you wanted to. And then you can build walls, you can build a roof, and you can build stairs. And what they've done is they've made it so there are some items, for example, like you'll see or hear a glowing chest, and you're like, oh, I bet there's something awesome up in there, but it's on a cliff. There's no way you can get to it unless you're building stairs to like go up to the cliff. And then you can get the super weapon that's up there that will probably help you win the game. And so they've done stuff like that. But also there are, one of the areas is kind of like a swamp. And so there were a lot of derelict shacks. And what I would do is I would go around, and as the circle would close, I'd go from one shack to the next shack and just build up that and like hide out in there. Like, Van, what's coming for me? Come on in here. And I would do that. And then there was also times where I set up barricades to different things. Like, well, they're not going to come through this way. So when the circle closed, they're going to try to run this way, and they won't be able to get through unless they're hacking it down. And then maybe they'll get caught in the circle and die. And so like, there's different strategy ways you can really screw with people just by building. And then of course, I died a few times to not looking up. Like, someone had built above me, and I'd run out of a building, and they'd just be like, pop. And I'm like, how did you? You built stairs up into the sky, and you're way high up.
Yeah, that sounds like a bit of a dick move. It seems interesting. Like, I like the idea of the building, especially with like squad play. The building, again, is counterintuitive because of the whole movement aspect of it. But if, you know, probably towards the end of the game, if you still got your squad alive and you know, okay, well, you can see clearly where this final battle's going to be, let's build up a little fort and let's man it, and, you know, let's try and fight from this position. That sounds interesting, but again, weirdly against what Battle Royale kind of is.
Well, I think that's the thought process that I had at the beginning, because I wasn't using it. I just had this stuff and was like, well, I've collected max number of wood. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with this.
Yeah.
But the more I played, the more I realized that a lot of it is strategy and strategy.
That's what you just invented a new genre, right? Perfect. Love it.
Yeah. A lot of it's strategy. No, so a lot of it is this aspect, because you see the timer that's like, you have 2 minutes to fight right now, and then okay, the circle's going to close. You have 2 minutes before it starts, and then you have the circle is closing. Get to the next area 2 minutes. So it gives you all these little indicators of when you need to move or plan to move, and so you can then think, okay, well, I need to do this, this, and this. And oh, okay, well, I can do this, this, and this. And let me look at the map and see what's up ahead. And suddenly it's more than just I'm running around killing people. It's how do I really win this? If I want to win, what's this insane plan that I need to have? My strategy. What's my strategy here going in to win? And it's super, super interesting. And I was the more I played, the more I realized why people love these types of games. And so I definitely want to check out the other ones because I was like, all right, I get it now. I understand.
Well,
I was kind of not
I think if you try PUBG, you'll be like, oh god, this is slow in comparison. And also, it's the most boring looking game in the universe. Like, Fortnite has color and some actual character. PUBG is like, how many store-bought Unreal assets can we get of, like, really boring looking blown out houses?
What do you mean? When you find those spiky trench coats, you feel dope.
Oh, God. Simon, what's your sort of experience with Battle Royale? Have you got on the PUBG bandwagon at all, or...?
No, I basically used it to wind up the fans of that video game.
That is easy enough to do in many situations, I find.
I have given it a couple of goes, but it's nowhere near enough to actually get... Do you know what I mean? I jumped in because you can't help it when everyone keeps talking about it.
Yeah, you've got to try it if everyone's like, oh, God, you know.
Exactly, and also I find that when I do use, when I notice a video game is getting a fan base and I decide I want to wind that fan base up, the best way to do it is to play it and take all the good. We will just take those good bits that are obvious and then say they're all crap. And that's all you've got to do to wind people up. So I thought, well, I've got to give it a couple of goes to, anything that makes me go, oh yeah, I just write down like, yep, right there. So I understand. I mean, just like, Jesse was just saying there, like you really do have to give it a few goes before it all starts to make sense. So I haven't done that. But like I said, even hearing your explanation then makes me go, okay, that interests me. And actually, maybe, and this would be the most sacrilegious thing I say, I actually think the Fortnite version with the building stuff sounds more interesting.
It does to me as well, right now, anyway.
Yeah, because I think then you've got a whole risk-reward thing going on, right? Like, do I build this staircase, or while I'm building this staircase, is someone going to pop up and,
There it is. Yeah, you're building and you're wondering at the same time, like, I have a goal that I'm building towards, but, like, I can easily be shot, and then it's totally wasted.
Yeah, that sounds much more interesting than, like you say, I mean, look, I PUBG, good for that game. It's doing awesome, but it does look like
crap.
Man.
Simple as that. It does. Let's call it what it is. It looks like bland, boring, out-of-date crap. And it doesn't run very well either. The nice thing about Fortnite is the guys who are making it are the guys that own the engine. So they're very, very good at using that engine and making it run well on lots of things. So that's nice. I think I don't want to go too far into this discussion because we are going to touch on it in the news, but... just to sort of stick on the Fortnite thing, I'm going to give that a try because I said after I played PUBG, I'm like, I see why people like this. I could get into this, but I think the game, it runs too long. There's too much walking around. And yes, while you can throw yourself into a high risk area, there's no real huge benefit to doing that. And you can often just die in 2 minutes and that's the end of the game for you. I'd like one's a bit quicker. There's a bit more focused, where there's a bit more action in a more confined space. So I think I'd probably enjoy that more. I'll give this a shot. And of course, this is the first Battle Royale game to be available on consoles. So that's going to be a fairly big deal for a lot of people. But I'll give it a try. I mean, it's free. You might as well, right? I think
honestly, just the explanation there has won me over massively in that sense. I think it sounds, and actually, this is a weird way for me to come at it, but the way you described it, that sounds harder to take the mick out of than PUBG, which I've done as a fake person I made up called the Miller Report many a times. For what you told me there, I don't know what I would even poke holes because it actually sounds like it took a very popular idea and go, well, we just build it like this. It will be a better game. I mean, I doubt it have the popularity that PUBG has. That's just one of those things where
probably not.
Yeah,
it's not hard to dethrone the king. Not impossible though. We saw that with King of the Kill in particular. Which did it before PUBG. It's still a very popular game. It's still in like the top 5 most of the time on Steam, even though people said, oh, it killed it. No, PUBG didn't kill it at all. Still a very popular game. But ultimately, to me, this whole thing's like a game mode that could be very easily implemented into other games. So you're going to see a lot more of this stuff pop up. And that's good because that means you got more choice and variety. God, I'm dipping too much into this. I want to talk about this in the news. Anyway, it's my fault entirely. Let's bugger off of that. I want to talk a little bit about heat signature. Can I talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That game still does not look interesting to me. I know that you said that Dan really loves it, and
Dan
you were like, I
loves
can't
it.
wait to play this. I was looking at the screenshots, and I was like, God, this game looks fucking boring. So I guess
depends what you want out of
how
it.
is
I mean, you didn't play Gunpoint, did you? Which was his
No.
other game, right? I mean, the idea of Heat Signature is you're basically a space pirate. You got this little pod, and you've got a very open universe, and you're given missions to infiltrate these procedurally generated starships and do an objective. And there's a bit of stealth in it. In fact, there's a lot of stealth in it. And each game very much has a different set of rules. So you go into a ship, it's like, well, this one's got a lot of guards, and there's this kind of security system you have to bypass and all that sort of thing. And a lot of it is, I think the enjoyment of it, very much the same as in Gunpoint, is there's a lot of very emergent gameplay that just kind of comes out of the systems that are in it. Like, for instance, a lot of it is based on the idea of momentum. And if you were to, say, blow out a window in a ship, you get sucked out into space and then catapulted halfway across the map. So you've got to be like, oh God, can I somehow get to a space station? I just got catapulted out of the ship when everything went horribly wrong. Can I somehow get my ship to intercept me and catch me before my character dies and all that sort of thing? Or can I use this against the enemy, you know? Could I set up a little trap where I catapult the guys out of their own window in their spaceship and then steal it? It's, you know, it's a sort of space heist kind of game with puzzle elements and stealth elements. It is not the most interesting looking game. It's very much top down. It's very utilitarian. I will happily admit that. But there's a lot of really cool, complex systems that work well together to produce these unique gameplay interactions, which is why it's interesting. I haven't played much of it yet, probably put an hour or so in, but so far, I've tried to hijack spaceships, gloriously failed to do so properly. My best laid plans have gone horribly wrong. And honestly, that's the most entertaining part of games like that. You come up with a plan, and everything goes to shit. And it goes to shit in a really entertaining way. And because there are the systems in the game to ensure that that happens, it ends up becoming an entertaining kind of experience. This game's
Kind of reminds me of Monaco. Every time I try to play Monaco, I just scream through it because I immediately get spotted, and I'm like, fuck!
I love how wrong that
people.
game can go. It's so great, especially you got a team of like 3 people with you. It's like, we're all heist bros. We're gonna go, and here's our carefully laid plan, and someone just fucks it up immediately. I'm like, oh fuck! Now what? I'd say, you know, it's very niche. It's a little more like you got to make some of your own fun in it, definitely. But I can see why people enjoy it. There's a lot of freedom as to how you approach these objectives and a lot of really cool, unique situations that result from having all these really cool systems that work together. And a space heist game, it's appealing to me. Being a space pirate, nicking people's ships, yeah, that's a little fantasy I would like to play out. Heat Signature lets you do that. So I could see why Dan's really into it. I think it's a pretty fun game from what I've played so far. That was nice. I'm trying to think, what else have I played? A bunch more Total War Warhammer. Simon, there's another fan base you've been taking the piss out of lately. Rightfully so.
They're the best.
Those
guys are the best. So like, just as a quick, it just cracks me up because I did do a video on my YouTube channel that is clearly the fakest review. In it, I even say during my 2 minutes of gameplay, I realized, and they get so mad. The Total Warhammer, any Total Warhammer fan, Total War fan out there right now, just thank you for the passion and the love you have for your videos.
I experienced that passion firsthand when I streamed it and apparently didn't stream it right. Oh God.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It was rough.
You've only streamed it as Skaven, right?
Yeah, I've been playing last few days as Dark Elves, which I believe your husband's also been playing on stream with JP, right? Mm-hmm. He's been doing a bunch of that. Dark Elves are fun. Like, one of the concerns that I had about the game, and I think a lot of people did as well, is like with the first one, you've got a very cool set of races that sort of run the gamut. There's a lot of variety here. You get your Empire, so that's your humans. You got your dwarves, you got your orcs, you got your undead. That runs the gamut. Here it's like, well, you got elves, and then their slightly meaner cousin elves, and then there's the lizard people and the rat people. And people are like, that doesn't sound like it's got a lot of variety. There's actually way more than it looks. Like, they've done a lot more to really split up and diversify each race. And the Dark Elves in particular, everything feels like you're constantly on the edge of rebellion because, well, you're a bunch of bastards and you keep taking slaves, which as it turns out, people kind of get pissed off at that. And, and there's always risks of slave rebellions and things like that. So you have to balance how greedy you get, because the more slaves you got, the more money you're making off the back of them. And you can sacrifice slaves to do rituals and summon cool shit with it. But if you go too ham on taking too many slaves too fast and you don't have the infrastructure to support it and you don't have the public order, you have huge rebellions on your hands. So there's all this internal politicking and your empire's just rebelling on itself and you're like, oh, fuck, I've got to go sort this out now. So you've got to worry about that. The politics are very cutthroat. It's like, I'm going to ally with the other Dark Elf factions, but I know they're going to fuck me later, so how can I set it up so that I can screw them? And they have this really cool mechanic where you can build what's called a Black Ark, and it's this huge city ship, massive thing. And you could upgrade it throughout the game. So you summon one of these things, and it starts off as a little Black Ark, little dinky cute Black Ark that can summon these powerful units called Black Ark Corsairs, which are basically elf pirates. And the more you build this Black Ark up, the bigger it gets. You can build more stuff there to the point where you can recruit an entire army on this fucking floating fortress. And if you bring it to a fight, you can bombard using different spells and cannons and shit into a battle. So you can do naval support with it, which has not been done in a Total War Warhammer game, but has been done in Total War games in the past, like Shogun, for instance. So that feels completely different. And playing Skaven, where there's a lot of disposable troops where I don't give a shit about killing my own troops, versus Dark Elves, where like these guys are elite and they're really, really good at what they do, and I really want to preserve them and get them to the highest rank possible. It feels like a completely different experience. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. And later on, Dark Elves, they love monsters. Like all of your lords, if you get them high enough level, can ride a black dragon. And you can recruit war hydras and dragons and harpies and all sorts of cool shit and get dinosaur chariots, basically, the cold ones that are essentially rideable dinosaurs. So yeah, it's a big, giant expansion for a game that was pretty good to begin with, but the races this time around, despite feeling like they wouldn't be as varied, actually feel more varied than the original game. And of course, when they bring the whole thing out, if you own the original, you're going to be able to play those races on a combined map a couple of weeks after launch as well. So you get this giant Total War experience with everything you want.
Yeah, I think Sam was saying the same thing because he's played, it's High Elves, right? There's Dark Elves, High Elves.
Yeah, he's playing Dark Elves in his co-op campaign.
Yeah, he's also played Skaven on his own, and I think he was saying Skaven has been the most fun for him so far.
I like Skaven.
Yeah, he said the same sort of a thing though, that like he thought that the elves would at least be pretty similar, but they're not. Like every race that he's tried playing has been completely different, and
yeah, they're not the same
play
at all.
Style, and it's been really interesting to try new things, which is good.
Yes. I mean, I think the High Elves are a bunch of pansies, personally. When I first got into Warhammer when I was a kid, like with Fantasy Battle, the first thing I was into was Dark Elves. Like, yeah, they're cool. They got you ride dinosaurs and all that kind of shit. And the High Elves, fancy pantsy schmancy. Oh, the law and order. Oh, the good and the magic. And it's like, nah, you're a bunch of bastards. I mean, there's a big lore thing where the main leader of the Dark Elves was basically supposed to be like the rightful heir. He was supposed to be the Phoenix King, but there was this big rite where you've got to walk into the fire, and if you pass through it, you become the Phoenix Lord. He got burned because he was an evil bastard, and then went off and founded the Dark Elves and has been on this constant revenge binge against the High Elves for thousands of years. So there's cool lore there, but I'm really enjoying it. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
Well, I say for all my jokes, that because I do like to prod the bit, it is because I'm not even a big RTS guy, but I sat down and played it for a couple of hours. It is a really well made video game.
Yeah, it is.
Like just in terms of, like I said, the amount of depth that's there, and also how it teaches you. It is very, very good at. And I always respect a video game that's like, look, we know we've got, years of basically, a back catalogue here that we can just assume but it doesn't. It really sort of holds your hand if you want it to.
Yes.
And when you actually get into, like you say, not even before you get to a battle, the amount of stuff that it wants you to do, wants you to learn, you can really invest yourself in it. And I'll never say this again outside of this podcast because I've ruined my reputation. But
don't worry, we'll keep it secret for you.
Yeah, but it is genuinely that whole series, especially because I played the original Total War Warhammer 2, is just I just think it's one of those games where it understands the fan base and it understands how you do RTS. And it genuinely is, like I said, I put 2 hours into it, which is a drop in the ocean for that thing. But even I was like, this is just an incredibly well-made video game. It just is. And it is a lot of fun when you get lost in it.
It's very hard to not enjoy a game where you can control big giant armies and just watch them clash. You know?
Yeah.
It was so fun that Channel 4 made a series out of it called Time Commanders. They're even bringing it back, so I'm told.
Especially when you know that it's because you made the tiniest of tactical changes as well. Like you get your ass whooped by someone, and go, well, what did I do wrong there? You know, what do I have to do? And you go back to the drawing board, and you actually go in again, and you make it work. It's that dangling carrot, and I think it does it. I really got into it, and I'll never say that again, but I really did. It's really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of Sorry, go ahead, Dodger. What you got?
When does it come out?
It is a couple of days, actually. Yeah, it's on the 28th. Yeah, 28th or 29th. So yeah, you'll see a lot of streamers playing it because they very much went with the approach of we just want streamers and YouTubers to play it and give their thoughts on it instead of like really going to the traditional media. And it's worked out for them. The views across the board, I mean, you can see the numbers on YouTube. Like they were just very open about the development process, and they are worthy of criticism for some of the stuff they did. I think that DLC policy, the original releasing and then locking chaos behind basically behind a day one DLC pre-order thing was bullshit. And chaos was badly developed as well. You know, it was a very afterthought faction that wasn't that much fun to play. You can argue that $30 DLC is excessive, but you got a race and you got a campaign with that and extra units for all the other stuff. So it's, it's overpriced. Yeah, I'm not gonna dispute that. They definitely they've had a pretty much history of doing that. But the game itself, I don't think anyone is going to dispute the fact that the game is good despite that. And I think that they're getting their DLC practices under control, and they've given a lot of free shit over the past year and a half. Like new factions, you got Bretonia for free. I believe you got like Norska for free. You got a bunch of legendary lords for free, a bunch of regiments of renown for free, new mini campaigns for free. They've been laying down the content, and they just did a massive update to the original game. So it's not like they abandoned it. They did a shit ton of stuff to update it and make it better. So I think they support their games well. Yeah, they charge a lot, no doubt, but they do support the games well, and this one feels really good to play. Yeah, might be more of the same, but it's more of a very, very good same. You know, I will happily have a second slice of that particular pie. I'm not sick of that pie yet. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Anyone else got anything they want to toss into the hat? Got a good few minutes before the next break. Anything you've been playing?
I don't think you talked about microtransactions and DLC. I actually did play a bit of NBA 2K18.
Really? Okay. All right. Tell me what's going on with that, because that got slated recently for microtransactions.
And I found that, and I didn't know where I fell down on it, because it is way too aggressive with this microtransactions. Like it's literally, it would bring them up every few minutes. Hey, you want to buy some stuff? How about that? And admittedly, it can affect some of the modes, but I've ignored them constantly, and it still plays a great game of basketball. Do you know what I mean? So we get into this horrible gray area where you're like, okay, I can ignore this, and it's not affecting my game. The game is great. The presentation's great. There's so much to do in it. The single-player narrative stuff, while a bit silly at times, it's fun. It is fun. There's no two ways about it. But then you've got this other side where you're like, man, does it want me to buy? I've already spent, $50 on this. It really wants me to spend more cash. And if you do, it is going to drastically change your experience. However, you can just kind of, you can just kind of pretend it's not there. That's what I've done. I've been playing it for a couple of weeks, and not once have I felt the need to buy anything. But maybe if I did buy something, I'd realize, oh man, it is screwing me over. So it's really difficult, because some people have absolutely just said, this has ruined the game 100%. I can't play it. Maybe I'm just a bit more stupid with that kind of stuff.
I think there's a varying level of tolerance to that. It's some people, for me, if a game's going to shove that stuff in my face, I'm very much less likely to buy it. And I start to lose the willingness to play it. I lose the willingness to be enthused by it, because I'm like, you know what? earn my money. If you're going to ask me, if I play a game for good 20, 30 hours, I'll actively go and look as like, is there something else I can buy for it? Because I love this and I think it's good.
Yeah.
So if you have a very good, this is something that a lot of mobile games are kind of mastered. If you have a very good new user experience, where like the first 10 hours is like, this feels awesome, it makes you more likely to spend. And I found that with a game, I've been playing a ton of this. This has been very much my new Clash Royale, Titanfall Assault. I play it every day. And that game had a good new user experience when I started playing it. They're like, we realize we're not the top dog in this genre. Hey, we're dealing with Clash Royale, which is one of the biggest games on the planet. And we've also got, it's a Titanfall licensed game on mobile. We want you to be impressed by this. We're gonna give you a ton of free stuff. You know, we're gonna give you a good amount of cards. We're gonna be very generous with what we do here. Every time you level up, you're gonna get a nice box with new stuff in it. So by the time I got around to spending money on it, I felt like the game had, you know, if you're gonna fuck me in the arse, take me on a date first, pay for dinner. And that's how I felt like with that game, you know? They took me to dinner. It was very respectful, you know?
Okay. Well, in that case, NBA does not take you to dinner.
No,
NBA
it does
knocks
not.
on your door.
That is my understanding.
Yeah, they literally goes, let's fuck right now. And
Yes.
you're like, whoa,
You know,
NBA.
We're just waving the strap on in your face. It's like,
Too aggressive.
here's Johnny. They're like, oh, God.
Yeah, it does do. I completely understand why it's rubbing people up the wrong way. Because it was kind of like that last year. Like last year, they were banging on.
Jesse's trying to figure out what the fuck just happened.
I just think it's crazy that they asked for dinner. I feel like you're selling yourself
it would have to be
short.
very nice. It would have to be a very nice dinner.
You're
Admittedly.
selling yourself short, but straight to ass. Like,
Look, it's his body.
Look,
He can
Jesse,
do
you're
what
the
he
person
wants.
who will sell out thousands of dollars of promotion for a fucking body pillow on Twitter. You don't get to talk about selling out to me. It would have to be a very nice dinner.
Sticking that pillow up my ass. Like that's not how it ends.
I
Like,
mean, if you manage that, that'll be quite impressive. I'll give you that.
I'm not judging you for wanting it up the ass. I'm just saying, you know, make them work for it. There's no reason why you got to
Like I
put
said,
out
very
for
nice dinner.
That's just not right.
Very
How did
nice.
this happen?
Minimum of
How
3
did this
courses.
happen?
Good
You'll be up
service.
this.
This is what happens.
They
when
pay
you
for the
talk
whole
about
thing.
basketball.
Good bottle of wine. You know, not the cheapest one. Mid-range.
You're beautiful. You're worth more than that. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate that. You know.
For dinner. No, you got to do a little bit more than that. I'm just
Oh,
saying.
I love it. I mostly do
Basketball
this to
always
just.
ends in ass chat.
Indeed, yeah. It's strange how that happens. It's like to scare the hell out of chat sometimes. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad you can tolerate it with NBA stuff.
I love
but,
all of the
yeah.
people in chat being like, "This should be animated." No, it shouldn't.
No, it should not.
There's no way to animate this chat.
No.
Shut it down.
Not in a way that would allow us to keep our YouTube monetization.
Pillow up his butt. I
We
don't
do not.
want that
No,
to exist.
we do not. Yeah.
That'll be a GIF, and I don't need that.
I'm going to specifically instruct our animator not to do this bit. Oh, man.
Okay,
God.
I've got nothing else to say about NBA. I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, I think we've sort of
Yeah,
ended the
yeah,
NBA
it's over.
discussion forever, which is convenient because it's right about time to go to a break. When we come back after the break, we'll be talking about, well, we're coming back to the PUBG stuff because Bluehole got a little bit upset about Fortnite Battle Royale. We're going to talk about what they said about that. There's been a hot off the presses update about the Warner Brothers Shadow of War charity situation, and there's also a little bit of a thread that's been doing the rounds over last week that I think we could kind of get into and maybe add a little bit to. So we're going to do that, and of course our roundup of this week's releases, we will find some good stuff amongst the pile of detritus that you will be finding on Steam. At the moment, you're watching the Co-optional Podcast, don't go anywhere. Your own little pile of podcast detritus. We'll be right back. No, don't you dare! Stop it! No! And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-optional Podcast. Going to dive right into the news. We've got quite a lot this week. Usually it's a good old bus analogy, right? No bus for 2 hours and 3 come at once. There's a lot of news, so we're going to dive right in. First things first. So we've covered the issue of, well, let's just put it this way. Shadow of War has had some PR problems as of late, to say the least. They have been constantly pissing people off. And the biggest issue, at least in my eyes, was that they were selling a piece of charity DLC in memory of a senior developer who died of brain tumor. And they wanted to memorialize him in the game, which is cool. and they put in a character called Fortog Orcslayer. And then they decided, hey, we're going to sell it as charity DLC and we're going to make donations, but only in certain countries. And then they had said on Twitter that nobody outside of the US's purchase would actually go to the donations at all. So there's a lot of backlash on that one, and a pretty terrible response. There's just this one sentence statement where it's like, we're not going to profit from this, but they didn't explain how or why. Finally, weeks and weeks later, we now finally have a statement on that, which basically fixes the problem. And it goes something along these lines. I said, we decided to sell the DLC worldwide and donate all profits to the family. We hope this approach would raise as much money as possible, blah, blah, blah. And it's to promote the donation outside the US, even though we intended to donate the money, caused many questions to where the funds would go. And then they basically said there was a factually incorrect tweet from the team, which exacerbated the confusion, stating that international funds would not be going to the family. Yeah, I mean, there definitely was, because there was very much a tweet that specifically said just that.
Factually incorrect, or now we're really trying to do damage control.
I mean,
Well,
that's a possibility.
Currently, it's factually incorrect.
Okay.
Yes.
The winners make history. Sure.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
absolutely.
Like, it was,
Yeah, exactly.
it was wrong, completely wrong. Yeah. And they go on to say, hey, there were compliance regulations in a lot of different territories. But we get that. Okay? That it's complicated. But you're also a giant international mega corporation. You can probably figure that shit out. You've got people for that. They have basically said, we now recognize that tying our donation to the sales of the DLC was not the best way to achieve the goal. And what we're going to do is we're going to give the DLC free to everybody. We've withdrawn it from sale, and we're giving a flat fixed sum donation to the family. And they also provide a link that people can donate to as well. Which, yeah, that was also a problem, as far as I'm concerned. But you can choose to believe them or not on this. Are they backpedaling, or was that always their intention? We were never going to truly know that, are we?
Either way, they're doing the right thing.
They're doing the right thing now.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the most important bit. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It means the guy gets properly memorialized, and more importantly, gets memorialized everybody, not just the select people that bought the DLC. And there's a good donation go to the family. I think it's a good, solid solution to it. I think if anything, the only thing it points out is like your communication sucks. This sounds like the kind of thing that could have been resolved weeks ago. If this was genuinely just a communication error, why did you not solve this weeks ago? Hopefully they learn a lesson from it, because I think maybe they don't realize that their reputation as a publisher was bad before this. It's worse now. And I think we should reward people when they do the right thing, and we shouldn't hold grudges. But they've got a lot of image repair issues they need to deal with, because to say that Warner Brothers is like one of the scummiest publishers on the planet right now would not be an understatement. I think they've done a lot of really shitty things. So, yeah, maybe try and not fuck that up in the future.
It's just solid advice there.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't. But yeah, any further speculation is kind of pointless, I think.
Yeah, I just think if you're dealing with issues that are that
sensitive.
Any issue that deals with that kind of emotion, probably just don't charge money for it. I think
Absolutely, don't bring them into the equation.
Yeah. I think if you want to memorialize someone, absolutely awesome. But yeah, don't then affix a monetary value to it. Even if you say all the donations are going here, which is lovely, it just look what it causes. Issues like this, right? And it's just uncomfortable. Like it really is. It's just I don't like it.
And I like the idea of them saying, hey, we're giving it to you to memorialize this guy, and then we're going to give a fixed sum to the family. I like that more than, because even though they're not saying this, deep down I always had that vibe of, hey, you need to buy this or else the family isn't going to get any money, guys. Like that kind of thing.
There was emotional manipulation going on there.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I like the idea
I
of,
hadn't thought about that, but that's very true.
Yeah,
like we're going to give them the money, and it's not on you to take care of this family. We're going to do this because we love him, we love this family, and we put him in the game, and so we're going to give that to you, and we're going to deal with this, the charity aspect of it separately. Much love, thanks. Like, that's much better, especially PR-wise from Warner Brothers. It's a good solution to a shitty problem that they caused.
Yes, they did cause it.
So, I can't hate them for that. And I like the fact that, at the end of the day, there's still some companies, even though they fuck up, they're not EA and don't like, no, we're totally all right. See you next game, assholes. Like, at least there's some companies that admit they're wrong sometimes. That's all I'm
Yes.
saying.
Yeah, they admitted they screwed up. I'm fine with it. I'm happy with the outcome. I think that's pretty much where we should leave it. That sounds reasonable. Okay, so moving on to something that has been going on for some time, the SAG-AFTRA voice actor strike. So it was quite some time ago that we covered this, and essentially SAG-AFTRA is a big union of actors in the United States, and they were striking on various video games in order to try and achieve certain goals, some of which were entirely reasonable, some of which were not so much, which included things like they wanted residual royalties, which is something that devs don't get. So that wasn't going down well with anybody. Apparently they have reached a tentative agreement. Residuals not on the table. They didn't get that. So if they spent a year trying to get that, they failed. Understandably, yeah, they should not have got that. But they've reached agreement about time worked. They've reached agreement about additional payments based on sessions that kind of stack up over time, which again sounds reasonable. I don't have any problem with them being paid properly. I've done work under SAG-AFTRA before. Basically, everybody has to, really. If you work with anyone that's in with the guild, I've had to sign a SAG-AFTRA agreement when I did my stuff with Blizzard because they work under SAG-AFTRA rules. But they also got some other stuff which was kind of shocking in the fact that this stuff wasn't there to begin with. For instance, one thing that I noticed in a discussion thread was they now have to properly disclose if a job is going to require the use of things like racial slurs before they agree to actually do the job. I mean, that's entirely reasonable. Why the fucking hell
it's along
was
the same
that?
lines as like an actor auditioning for a role and not realizing it requires nudity.
Yes,
right?
that's exactly
it's
what it
along
is.
the same lines as that.
Yeah, it includes unusual terminology, profanity, racial slurs, sexual or violent nature, and all that kind of thing. And there's a lot of stuff that is just like, this really should have been in place already. Obviously, these obvious various guidelines and safeguards that very clearly should have been there.
As a person who faked his way into a lot of voice acting back in the early 2000s.
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. I will simply say that having been in a lot of things many years ago, boy, is it not nearly as, I don't want to say professional, put together as people think it is. They definitely need a union to come, like SAG-AFTRA needed to come in and be like, we need to set some ground rules, because it is incredibly loosey-goosey over there in the world of voice acting. It is
wildly variable in my experience.
Yes, and pay is drastic in both directions. Like it's insane, and the rules are sort of like the tide. Sometimes they exist, like it's in and out, and you have no idea what's going on. And so the fact that it's 2017 and I was doing that stuff in 2001, like that just goes to show that for a long while things were pretty wacky. And I think only recently, because of amazing video game performances that we've had over the last 5-6 years from some of these voice actors, that now it's finally okay, well, we need to, like, we're making some of these games.
Yes.
Like, our voice alone is really selling some shit, so we need to fight for ourselves. And I think that's fine. I agree with you on the whole idea of residuals. That's crazy, because like,
fuck that.
The devs, if the devs aren't getting those, it would be insane that you got those. So
yeah,
that's a whole other issue with companies, and that's the future.
Yeah. What was sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that they probably went for that because in like big major movies, even if you're a smaller actor in a movie, you get residuals from that movie for a long time. So
Not always, though.
Not always, but a lot of the major films do it that way.
I did January 2 years ago. I went to a Nintendo event and they used me going, "It's awesome," in a commercial or whatever. I still get checks in the mail from that.
Nice.
That was 2 years ago. So,
Yeah.
and that, like, residuals are crazy when they exist. But with that said, I feel like we need to work through the order of operations. If we're going to talk about residuals, let's get the devs in there. Let's get everyone who's busting their ass.
They're busting their ass. You know, let's be honest, the game could exist without your voice, and it could not exist without their development. Let's be kind of clear about that. I think there's a big difference in filmmaking and game making. I think you can make the argument that Iron Man doesn't exist without Robert Downey Jr., but you could definitely not make the argument that X video game doesn't exist without the devs, you know.
Even and what's so profound about that is even in Marvel vs. Capcom, the guy trying to do Iron Man is trying to do Robert Downey Jr.'s voice.
Yeah, he really is. He really is in that game as well. But
And
also,
Go, Simon.
Well, I guess you know, in many ways, I mean, I don't know 100% sure how the process works, but the developer is going to, or at least the development team is going to come up with a character, and they probably have somebody in mind of who they want to, you know, voice that part. There are some pretty big voice actors now. So imagine that person waltzes in and go, yeah, you're going to get residuals. And the person that basically cast you goes, I don't get that. And also, a month before the game came out, or the month before we went gold, I wanted to kill myself because the game development is horrendous.
Because I was in a massive crunch. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. That's a huge problem in it, certainly. I don't think SAG-AFTRA did themselves any favors pushing for that. That's the problem. If you're a union and you're not effectively representing the people that are part of a union, then obviously you're not an effective union. So you got to be careful with how far you get, you know, and you don't want to alienate devs and people in the industry. Like, yeah, they're in it with you, they're in the trenches with you, but if you then say, well, our voice actors get to waltz into a studio, do 45 minutes of work, and then get residuals, whereas devs pulling 100-hour fucking weeks and having to sleep in their goddamn offices don't, they're gonna be a bit salty about that. You want to make sure the guys are on your side when it comes to this sort of stuff. So to me, it seems like they've reached a reasonable position. I'm not going to argue with any of that stuff about keeping people's voices healthy, properly informing them about this sort of thing. Yeah, that should absolutely be there. And a good set of standardized rules will help in that respect. So, good.
For sure.
Good. Things are getting fixed this week. Man, God. It's feeling like quite productive. As long as you don't look at the mainstream news, then things are really good right now.
Things getting fixed, guys. It's just going to be great.
Yep, everything's fine. Puerto Rico's like just underwater, but everything's fine. Right, okay, so moving on. So that's that. There's that. Should we go for Into the Blue Hole? Is that
Why not? Let's just jump right into that blue hole.
Just stop saying it, though.
That's their name. That's the dev's name. What am I supposed to say? Okay.
I think it is our fault. If we just ignore them, maybe they'll change their name.
Yeah.
If we just don't use it, it'll take away its power.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
They're the Beetlejuice.
They're Beetlejuice. I was going to make that joke.
Oh,
we've said it 3 times. No.
So the first thing I knew of this was they actually sent out a fucking email via their PR contact. And I emailed that guy back saying, lol, is your client fucking serious? Because I'm like, did this get accidentally sent out? Because it went through Reverb Inc. It was a PR firm that represents a lot of games. And it's just this big, whiny screed by Changhan Kim, who was the vice president and executive of Bluehole. And they're saying all sorts of things. After listening to the growing feedback from our community and reviewing the gameplay for ourselves, we are concerned that Fortnite might be replicating the experience for which PUBG is known. Community concerns. Oh, fuck off. Nobody in the community was concerned about Fortnite. And that we have noticed that Epic Games references PUBG in the promotion of Fortnite. This was never discussed with us. We don't feel that's right. Well, yeah, they referenced it once by saying, we're fans of PUBG. That was it.
I'm offended. How dare you be a fan of mine?
That's entirely legal.
Don't play my stuff.
Yeah. In the US, that is entirely legal. As part of marketing, you could absolutely reference other companies far more than that. You could literally say, our product is way better than this guy, and this guy is a shit pile. You could say that. Saying we're fans of PUBG, that you're not using that as part of your marketing, that's barely a mention. And some other guy was like, other companies will, of course, enter the marketplace, but I would just hope they would put their own spin on the game mode and not just make a carbon copy.
Gross.
Bear in mind, like, they hadn't even tried the game at this point, and it's not a carbon copy at all. It's got all sorts of different mechanics in it.
The fact that it has base building in it is, like, a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's like, the PUBG community has and continues to provide evidence of many similarities. No, they didn't. No,
evidence.
It wasn't even out when you said this, so they had no choice of even trying the thing. And no, your community is not... Don't bring up the community as some fucking shield. All right, and then so
We're taking care of them. It's not about us. It's not about
Yeah.
us. It's about
Yeah.
them.
it's about that. So
Okay.
after everybody rightly shits on them from on high about this, they clarify the situation. Of course they do. And this does not make it any better. Like, because they're trying their absolute best to, say, oh, yeah, we had a real concern. And they're like, oh, it's totally not because people were kind of making the assumption, and honestly, from that email, I don't blame them, that PUBG is trying to take ownership of the genre here, saying that nobody else can make a battleground game. Like, no one else can make a battle royale game. It's like, one, you were not the first to fucking do it.
Exactly.
So-
That's the thing that kills me, is that they're like, how dare people copy our idea? And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And they're like, oh, it was involved in H1Z1. Yeah, okay, one of the devs was, sure. But also, before that, we had the Minecraft Hunger Games mods. We had Warcraft 3 mods that all did that kind of shit. And then before that, the Battle Royale movie and book, and the Hunger Games, and everything else. So, yeah, people obviously made some, and I think pretty reasonable assumptions that that's what they were trying to do. So they're quickly backpedaled. So, no, we're totally not trying to do that. What they were concerned about is Epic Games. They're like, well, we're concerned that Epic Games, this is the stupidest concern ever, we use the Unreal Engine to develop PUBG, and we pay a large amount of royalties based on the size of our success to Epic Games. The larger amount of royalties, by the way, in the standard agreement, I believe, would be about 5%, which they agreed to, and that's entirely their fault for agreeing to it. They could have easily built their own engine if they so wished to do so, but they wanted to rush the damn game out, so of course they bought an engine and then bought all their fucking assets from the store. Anyway, so they make arguments that Epic Games, because they're making a game with similar elements and they own the engine as a concern, they're claiming that they... Oh God, there's this quote. Where is it? It's such a silly quote. That they could implement stuff in the engine that would help Fortnite and wouldn't benefit them, and would also help other Battle Royale games. Now we're starting to have the concerns that they're going to develop new features or improve something in the engine to support Battle Royale gameplay and then use it for their own game mode. Yeah,
Well,
but
like make it so that the engine is better, but then go into the system and be like, but don't upgrade theirs.
which is not how that
Patch
works.
everybody
It's
except for theirs.
open source. You can clearly see that whether they've done that. So that's not. We could be afraid when they make new features in the engine by modifying it that's not available in public. The feature could be leaked or other things could happen. What are you even talking about? The guy just blithers on. I don't know what the fuck kind of cocaine this guy's been just eating. He's been sprinkling on his
Conspiracy theory
pasta.
level of
It's
like
ridiculous.
us because we're popular. Like that's not how the world works. That's never how the world works.
That's the thing that is very confusing to me, is the fact that they're on top. Like they are
That's what I don't get,
decidedly
yeah.
on top.
In
And
a
I'm like,
huge
what are
way.
you so nervous about? With Fortnite? Like
Fortnite?
what are
Why
you
do they
so
care?
nervous about?
I don't get why they care. If I had those numbers and I was raking, I would be throwing it in people's face. I mean,
I'd be buying a yacht.
Come at me,
I'd be
bro.
buying my
Make
second
your
yacht.
shitty battle royale game.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'd be buying a bigger yacht to put my smaller yacht in at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. I would do that.
They should
it's
do what Blizzard
absurd.
does, which is, oh, your game has a thing. It's an our game now.
Yeah.
Fucking have to leave. Like they do every time a new MMORPG came out. They just add whatever that add
Good.
into Warcraft, and they were like,
That's how
"Now it's our
genres
game."
get better.
Yeah, and that's how you do it. You don't sit there and shit on someone else who's like not gonna have the same reach and not gonna have the same amount of players and not gonna be anywhere near you. You're on top. What are you doing? It's insane.
Yeah, because the ridiculous thing is that I didn't even know there was going to be a Fortnite Battle Royale mode until they did this shit. They gave Fortnite a ton of free publicity, and they got to console first. Simon, go.
Well, I say it's the whole Barbara Streisand thing, right?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I thought we'd all learned. Don't just shut up. I thought we'd all learned this a long time ago.
No, we
Don't
have not.
say anything. I don't get it. I really don't get it. If I was in a position of that much power and I had managed to smash the market to that degree, I would just let them do whatever the hell they wanted. I'd just look at my cash and be like, man, I can swim in this shit. So I don't understand. I mean, and also to backtrack, just shut up. I don't understand why they have to keep throwing it. Just, okay, realize, oh, wait, we shouldn't have said that. Just go quiet and continue to make all your cash. I don't get it. It's utterly lost on me. When developers do things like this, it just flies right over my head.
Yeah,
It's
because I'm the
dumbest.
same way. I didn't even realize that Fortnite was doing a battle royale mode until this happened. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I guess Fortnite has a battle
wouldn't have
royale
touched it.
mode.
I want to touch it, but I'm going to play it today because I'm now interested enough in this thing because of all this controversy. Bluehole did the biggest possible favor to Epic Games they could.
Yeah.
And some people have tried to defend them, and I'm just like, no. You went into your relationship with Epic Games is the same as anyone else that just bought their standard license. Like, there's no expectation of anything more than getting the engine that they paid for and the updates that engine gets, which they're going to get, just like everybody else. And here's the thing, is you went in fully realizing that Epic is also a game dev. And everybody else that works with them also goes in knowing that fact. So if you don't want to give a bunch of money to Epic, you don't want to use their engine, don't use their fucking engine then. Use somebody else's or build your own, and then that's not a problem. But let's call it what it is. The reason they're using Unreal 4 is because they wanted to be quick to market, because if they didn't, someone else would have got there first. And they want to be able to buy the majority of their assets. Most of the assets used in that game, including things like gun models and most of the map assets, like the burnout houses, are all bought bespoke assets from the Epic, the Unreal store. That maps, there's nothing original on there. There's not at all. They haven't made a thing. They just slapped a bunch of shit together. Like, in many ways, PUBG is an asset flip.
Mm-hmm.
They're just using shit that other people made for them.
And truthfully, maybe that's why, as devs, they seem so defensive, because they know deep down inside they lucked the fuck out with this, and it became
they did.
And they're making money hand over fist, and I think at their core are like, what if people catch on?
Yeah, what if somebody else gets in on the racket, Yeah,
there's no reason for them to react the way they are unless they themselves are very like, oh boy, I hope we don't get screwed on this. Like, oh geez, if people find out we're really just scamming. Who knows? Yeah,
because as far as I'm concerned, like as soon as a bigger dev comes along with more experience and does a more polished version of this game, I think that people are going to leave. It's the player base for these kind of things is nomadic. We've seen it with survival games, and now we're seeing it with Battle Royale. They moved from the culling to H1Z1 to PUBG. PUBG, from what I've seen of it so far, doesn't have enough to keep people in there. They're trying to. This is why they're pushing this crate economy, this gambling economy. This keeps people in because they want to start throwing real money. It's very insidious, and they know that. That'll keep people playing the game.
It seems like, for the most part, what every person who really loves these battle royale games wants is variety, and they're constantly looking for the next battle royale game because maybe it'll have better variety.
Yeah. Also, it's down to they want a very specific experience. When I mentioned earlier, I like PUBG as an idea, but I think it's too slow and there's too much downtime. I would play a game that had less of that. It turns out that's actually what Fortnite is. But I do like the modern military, realistic guns aspect of PUBG. So maybe there's a middle ground there. So maybe someone will come along and do that, or want a different setting or something like that. And that's why genres are cool, because you get that level of choice. Maybe you like World War II shooters, maybe you like sci-fi shooters, maybe you like all sorts of different things. And there will be something on the market for you. But right now, because this is a burgeoning new genre, there isn't a lot of choice.
And I hope that does happen too, because then developers have to be creative, and you've got to start thinking, well, how do we keep if we just have one game that exists within a genre by itself, it's going to get, I mean, you said yourself, it's already that it has dull moments.
Getting stale, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I don't want to use a wrestling analogy here, but I will.
But you should. We haven't slipped anywhere near enough wrestling references past this guy, so let's really pile it on. Here we go.
It's true.
But I mean, it is like, the whole WCW versus WWE thing in the late 90s. I mean, you can go back now and argue that maybe it wasn't as good as we all thought it was. However,
but at the time, that was awesome, right?
Yeah, it felt much more creative and it felt much more exciting because you didn't know which product to watch. So you flip back and forth between the two, and eventually one of them won you over. And that was great for the consumer. And that's all that ever really matters here. Like, just make sure you come up with the better product. Look at, do what Epic did. Look at, Bluehole should look at what they did. Okay, they've done this. Like you said, do the Blizzard tactic. Just put it in your game too. Continue to iterate and
make it better.
Continue to evolve it. Yeah. You always need competition when creativity is key. Otherwise, what is the point? You may as well shut it down now.
Yeah, and this is why I think it's very important for consumers to realize, don't defend Bluehole on this. Like, competition is good for you. Like, a lack of competition is not. People get really defensive about things they own and start to form, tribes around it. It's like, no, this is the best. Okay, cool, you can have a nice discussion about that, but don't feel like you have any ownership. These guys don't give a fuck about you. You bought their product and that's fine. They just want you to keep playing and maybe buy some crates. You don't own this. Just competition is good.
Monopolies will always be anti-consumer.
Of course they will.
But people will always try to have their thing that they'll protect with their life. And it's like, man, you gotta look at the other options. Like, that's the only way that as consumers we're going to demand the best.
And even tribalism, that's what it's about. Yep. It's like, it's my thing though. It's my team.
It's all about teams. My team has got to win now. Fuck that. But it is the thing. Like, even if you love PUBG and you want PUBG to exist for years and years and years, the fact that there are other games that are trying this means that PUBG has to up its game, and that's good for you, because that means your game's going to get better. They can't coast. That's great. If PUBG ends up being the best, so be it. If they win the battle Royale, then so be it. But they've got to make sure they up their game to get there. I want them to see them fight for it and work for it and prove that they are the best. And we get to reap the benefits of that fight. All in on that. It's good. Yeah. So
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's the way to go, and Bluehole needs to shut their fucking Bluehole, basically, at this point.
Is this why we've been saying the word Bluehole all day since
pretty much.
Finally
it's all been
off?
leading up to that, yeah.
Shut that Bluehole. Oh!
I've been holding that for about a week.
You got him.
Yeah.
I don't get how smart, successful people don't know how to shut up. I'll never get over it. Just shut up.
That's a great question.
Dude, if YouTube has taught me anything, most of them don't know how to shut up.
No. No, they don't.
So true. Oh, well.
Yep. All right, so that's that. Okay, we've got about 25 minutes. I think it's enough time to go about 10 minutes on this thread here. So it was... it was an ex-dev of various kind of different places, and he had this. It's called Charles Randall, and he had a few interesting things to say. And he started off by saying, "The other day, a friend commented to me, I wish game developers were more candid about game development," and he was surprised what I said in response. And he said that gamer culture is so toxic that being candid in public is dangerous. And he went on about saying, there's things about angry gamers and game design tricks and people not really understanding how game development works. And, even mentioned some things like, some YouTubers are causing these problems by, rabble rousing and all that sort of thing. Just the general conclusion that the whole situation is so unpleasant and that there's so much hate and flaming being thrown around that we can't have a good, honest, open conversation about game development. I'd like to initially sort of hear your thoughts on how true you think that is, because I don't think that it's universally true, really. I've seen quite a few devs that I think have done a great job of having that conversation.
I'm trying to think of what the difference is. Sorry, Simon.
I think it's kind of like a flip of a coin, right? Because one day you can wake up and the internet can be a wonderful and promising and exciting place, and the next day you do nothing different, and all of a sudden it's people are saying you have to die now. You're like, I didn't do anything different.
Yeah, where did that come from? Yeah,
and I kind of understand what he's saying, because some of the things we have seen, even when, it's different. I guess it's all to do with the attitude. Like, even when a developer does screw up, like the Warner Brothers situation we were talking about earlier, there's always going to be a portion of people that, we could talk about that intelligently, right? We could put forward a proper debate to say, look, you shouldn't be doing this because of X, Y, and Z. However, that's not what we get. Even in the situations where the consumer or the person other is correct, we get, fuck you, you're a piece of shit, you should die, yada 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 yada. And I could imagine that a game developer eventually be like, well, I don't want to talk about anything.
Yes.
If I say anything to hit that button, I'm going to get absolutely destroyed online, and that's not something I want to do. So you just kind of, again, this is where the thing we just talked about, the smart people may go, I'm just going to be really quiet.
Yeah,
and then no one can say anything.
Yeah, and at some point it definitely becomes not worth the hassle. I think we've all probably experienced that at some point in our careers where we've like either really wanted to get in on a subject or explain something. It was like, you know what? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think one of the big elements of that thread, right, is they were saying that sometimes people demand things and they don't realize how much work would go into implementing that.
Yes.
And trying to explain is like trying to teach a class on game development, right? Like it's hard to explain quickly like why this would be difficult
a lot to
do. And then people come back, like if they're belligerent enough, right? People will sometimes come back and be like, you're just being lazy. Like that's not an excuse. You just don't want to do it. It's like,
I think a good example
of costs money and time. Like, yeah.
A good example of that lately, I think, was Ryan Morrison, also known as video game attorney. Well, there's been quite a few interesting legal issues that popped up over the last couple of weeks, and he got in on the whole DMCA PewDiePie thing. And this is a professional lawyer who works, you know, in the video game industry, mostly doing copyright stuff, explaining why this works and why that works, but trying to do it to a bunch of laymen who don't understand the law at all, and so they don't even have the functional groundwork to understand this point, and have already basically made up their minds anyway. So it's like talking to a brick wall. It even like happens when I see legal discussion online. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but I have a law degree, and I don't claim to know everything. I'm not even close. It's very rusty, but it starts to give me a bit of a headache. I'm like, oh God, I really feel the need to come and explain this. But I'm like, without the background in this, it's really hard to explain this in any meaningful way. And there becomes a point where it's just like, what's the point? Like, the guys are just angry and they want to be angry. And can we diffuse that by educating? Sometimes I think you can, but sometimes it's not worth it.
I keep thinking back to a lesson that I feel like I need to constantly relearn about the internet. And I feel like going the flip side of this argument for a minute and just be like, as a dev, I still think the idea of sharing stuff is awesome, and I'd love to see more. And rather than say like there's crazy ass people on the internet and they make it hard to share and they make interacting with people toxic and stuff, I think what I need to constantly remember, and what I think everyone should remember about the way Twitter and the internet works, is like, you don't know who's responding to you. You don't know their age or their mental state or anything like that. To them, it's one response, but to you, it's like hundreds or thousands of people loading on you. And so there's a lot of different factors there. And I think that eventually you hit a point where enough people care where you have to be like, okay, maybe I need to stop caring as much and sort of just like back off and say what you have to say, or communicate a thing. And like that video that showed how line of sight worked in games, how things were loaded, and the internet like lost its shit about that. I think at that point, this goes back to what Simon was saying earlier. Like, maybe that's the point where you just don't say anything else. You're like, I showed you the cool thing I had to show you, and now you're all acting like idiots. I'm gonna be quiet for a little bit, and then I'll come back and show you something cool later.
Once you've calmed down. Yeah, I'm not going to reward that behavior. I've been saying this for years, like that the best way to deal with it, like, I refuse to buy into, and I will refuse to buy into this until the day I die, that the gaming community, one, there's no such thing as that gamers in general are somehow, you know, majority bad people and shitty and awful. Because if you believe that, why are you working in this industry? If you truly believe that, you wouldn't be here. I believe the vast majority of them are great people, but we hear from a bunch of really shitty people because they tend to be the loudest. You need to freeze those people out as best as possible. You need to realize you're going to say some stuff. Some people are going to disagree with you politely. Some people are going to hate you. But the thing was, if the thing's worth saying, you should say it, because the people who are going to listen to you, they are in that silent majority and they benefit from hearing it. And this level of education that we can give to people in the industry and people that consume the products of the industry is going to, in the long run, help produce a better, more informed consumer base that picks up your great games and enjoys them, appreciates them for what they are, and discusses things in a reasonable manner.
And it also gives you that access to, like, you're seeing what game developers are going through, and they're expressing frustrations, they're expressing like successes and all sorts of different things. And if that doesn't exist, if they aren't willing to share that outside the community, then where do people who want to do that for a job or want to be inspired by those people, where do they go to find that information and to see new things? They're like, holy shit, that's interesting. I'd love to do something like that. There's, if you wall yourselves off from other people because of assholes, then you neglect those people who really care.
Yeah.
I think that's the other point as well. Like this is going, way too far, in the other direction, but you don't let the assholes win, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the point in the world the world we're living in right now. You got to keep living your life. Otherwise you let the assholes win. So I definitely think there's a point to that, but I can completely understand why a lot of people on the internet get scared. Because they think, oh no,
that's a scary place.
This is gonna ruin my entire life. But I agree. I think transparency would be great. And I always think, again, relying on the greater good to eventually come out is the way that we should do this. I mean, I don't think the internet's ever going to be this wonderful place.
No, it's not.
Teddy bears and roses. But at the same time, to talk to the people that are decent, as opposed to be scared of the ones that aren't. That should be the way you go forward, really, because it is going to be a benefit. But also, it's just the way that you should live your life, because you shouldn't let some, idiot, wherever they may be, kind of stop you doing something you want to do, right? Because that's bad all round.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out of the fact: do you believe in the basic goodness of humanity? Because if you don't,
exactly, yeah.
Well, that's depressing.
Well, and not only that, but like building off of what Jesse said, like you're in the industry because you love it, right? And if you're in any kind of a job where you're creating something, it's hopefully because you're passionate about it. And no matter what industry that is, there are going to be people that don't like what you're doing and try to break you down, but there are also going to be people that respond positively to it and love what you're doing.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of that. And those are the people that need to be rewarded. It is hard to do that. I've rewarded trolls plenty of times in the last 8 or 9 years. So
it gets to you sometimes.
Yeah,
and then you have to remember, go back and remember, like, okay, let's start this over again. Let's try one thing.
Delete Twitter and
hit the gym, delete Facebook. Yeah.
A great way to deal with it is to make videos that deliberately wind them up. It's a wonderful... It's a wonderful tactic. You feel great afterwards, and they all come at you, but you're like, "Well, I wanted that, so it's all good." So you win.
Yeah, I win. Exactly by doing that, trolling the trolls and all that kind of thing.
Exactly, troll the trolls.
Yeah, but I think ultimately the attitude is like, gaming is too toxic to educate people. I mean, that doesn't fix anything. If you really believe that, that's sad. I think I don't believe that. I think you can absolutely educate people. You don't have to be the one to do it, but don't say it's impossible. I think that's bollocks. And you got to try. Even if you think it's hard, you got to try. And we can make the industry better by doing that. And on the subject of sort of YouTubers in particular, I don't know who is necessarily taking a swipe out of that one. I wouldn't know. We obviously didn't mention anybody, but obviously we have a level of responsibility not to rabble rouse and to try and be as informed as possible and make sure we're communicating accurate information to the consumer, to our viewers. And we can also be an element for positivity just as we can be an element for negativity if we're not careful. And we don't want to use our audiences as weapons. We don't want to weaponize them against people. We don't want to be a reason for some dev getting harassment and death threats and shit. Nobody wants that. So we'll try and do the best we can there. It would be nice if devs weren't taking very much broad stroke swipes at YouTubers in general, as if we were all part of the problem. I don't think so. I've spent 8 years in this industry trying to elevate indie devs, so I don't really appreciate hearing something like that. But I would happily work with any indie dev or any developer to get that information out there. We've had them on the show multiple times. I've done videos with them to try and explain that sort of thing and get that information out to people. I go to shows for that reason. And so, maybe work with people, maybe believe that, honestly, your basic human being is pretty decent. And I don't think the gaming scene is any worse than any other scene that is reliant on fandom and anonymity.
It's absolutely not. Just as a quick side, wrestling is just as bad.
Oh, God, yeah. It can be really bad.
Worse to some degrees. It's all to do with the people as opposed to the field you find yourself in.
Yeah, I was thinking about that with theater too. Like, you just had to push past the pretentious bullshit from people who know a lot about theater.
Yeah.
Just be like, well, this is what we're making, and if you don't like it, you don't have to fucking watch it, right? Like, I think that it's that mentality in so many different art forms.
Yeah. And I think last, just sort of wrap it up before we go on to the releases. Developers, you do have a level of responsibility in this. Now, gamer anger is often overwrought. However, gamers do get pissed off about some pretty legitimate things a lot of the time, and they don't really like being dismissed or being called awful people just because they maybe had an expectation that you set because you said you'd do a thing and then you didn't do the thing. Publishers and developers, by pushing pre-order culture, by pushing these basically crazy artificially created fandoms, all that sort of thing, are creating this very attitude in people. People get pissed because you promised them the universe 2 years ago and you kept promising them, saying, pre-order my bigger edition, pre-order my special $200 Infinity Stone Egg edition, and then you give them that shit. So yeah, they're pissed. You led them on. Don't act that way. Don't lie to people. And hopefully, as a direct result of that, people will calm down a little bit. There's always going to be some fringe, crazy idiots that go off way too hard on an issue, but the majority of people just don't want to get screwed over. They work hard for their money just like you do, and they want a good product for their money, and that is not an unreasonable thing to ask.
Hell yeah.
And don't make shitty Infinity Stones. Simple as that.
I feel like I want to go
real.
around marching now or something.
There you go.
I feel so inspired.
Yeah.
Don't be inspired by me. I'm a terrible YouTuber. There are better role models. Better role models. All right. Shall we move on to the releases? As usual, a lot of releases out today, but been spending some time picking through the debris, I suppose, having a look at what's available here and what is worth looking at versus what's worth completely and totally fucking ignoring. A good example today that we talked about, of course, coming out is, and it's out right now, is Ruiner. That's out today. That's something that's definitely worth looking at. And also, Hob is out today as well by the devs of Torchlight. That's definitely something that you, I think, want to have a look at. It's a kind of not Metroid. I call it Zelda-esque kind of game. It's not the same as their previous games, which are like Diablo stuff. Very much interesting idea because the world kind of builds around you and you fix the world as you're going. Really cool art style. Very enjoyable from what I played at PAX about a year and a half ago. I'm interested to see how they developed it.
Cool.
I'm really excited for Danganronpa V3.
Yes.
Harmony. Yes.
Point of order. I've been told by Kristen, who I'm sure wants me to say this again. You need to play the first ones to understand this one.
I have been told that is bullshit by several people.
I'm told that's bullshit.
There are always like little pieces of information that are between all of them, but normally you can play them on their own.
Oh, she's gonna be so mad.
I played this one because I managed to get it on it early, and I'd never played the other ones, and I got on with it fine. I mean, it was nuts, and it made me
it's crazy. Yeah,
absolutely. I felt my brain was melting at one point, but I certainly never felt like out the loop. If anything, I thought they did a very nice job in trying to fill in the gaps in the first hour, but it was nuts. And I didn't really know what was going on half the time.
It's because it's so fucking crazy. That's what actually makes it compelling, in my opinion. It's pretty great like that.
Oh yeah, I did enjoy it. I absolutely did enjoy it.
Good to hear. Anything else that people spotted today?
There's a little game called Doodle Jamboree.
I saw that one.
It looks cute.
Doodle Jamboree.
Yeah, it's like little pieces of paper and like post-it notes and stuff on a table, and you're a little doodle boy, and you're jumping between doodles.
Well, you seem to be like a turtle with a little top hat on it or something.
Yeah,
That's cute.
It's $2. That's actually, that's kind of cute for what it is. There you go.
I kind of dig Duel of Summoners. I don't know why. I'm sure we're about to find out some dark secret about it, but I like the way the card game battle works. I think that's pretty neat. But yeah, I don't know anything about the game, so it just looked cool.
Duel of Summoners, yeah. Card art looks very nice. The animations as well. Sort of trying to figure out like what is different to this. It's a Nexon Korean game by the looks of it. I've got to assume this was probably originally on mobile. So it looks like you're kind of walking through a dungeon
Right.
as you fight.
Which is
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the other summoners like. One is a sexy girl and one is a cat, and like I don't know
Cat in a robe.
the reasoning behind it, but
One's
the
a
rest-
fucking bear for some reason.
But the card battle, I can't figure out what that is, but it looks interesting. It looks visually
Huh.
appealing, so I have no idea.
Yeah, it looks kind of neat. All right. Yeah, it looks like there might be some originality there.
I saw a game called The Walking Vegetables.
I was literally
I'm
going
sorry,
to say
you-
walking
you-
vegetables looks fun.
The
I
walking
literally only
vegetables.
clicked it because of the name, but then I watched what it looks amazing. It's like a bunch of aliens have come down and turned everyone into vegetables. It's the 80s, and you just run around at super speed and shoot everything.
All
So I'll
right.
play that. I'll play
yeah,
that game
actually-
100%.
Yeah, it looks all right. It's a little bit of Smash TV going on there, a little bit
Yeah.
of Robotron. Yeah, it looks all right. That okay, cool. All of their dev updates appear to be gifts from the Conan show for whatever reason, but hey, you know what? We'll forgive that. Okay. Oh wow, they actually brought Navy Field out finally. Yeah, this was a fairly popular free-to-play naval combat multiplayer game that was in Asian territories for quite some time. Apparently, they've decided to finally bring that out to Steam. It's a little old now. I think it might be not so relevant compared to things like World of Warships. But okay, they brought that out. That's kind of cool.
On the 28th, Fall of Light it comes out. It's a dungeon crawler that looks kind of cool. Looks like it might be
Fall
a
of
little
Light.
too dark. I mean, like actually, like dark.
Well, apparently it's in a world consumed by darkness, so they
I
weren't kidding
know,
about
but like
that.
you know how sometimes a game is like it's dark, but it's also so dark that it's difficult to play, and you're
Can't
like, come
see
on.
shit. Yeah,
As long
okay,
as
so
it's not that, I'll be fine. But
yeah, I'm seeing this sort of isometric dungeon crawly kind of aspect to it. There's a free demo anyway, so you can try that.
yeah,
So that's worth
there
it.
you go.
Always
There's
nice to
also
see
something
that.
early next week called Hippo Sports.
I'm
where you
sorry,
have-
what?
Yep, this is why I looked at it. Right, it's called Hippo Sports,
Okay.
and the whole point is you've got to get a hippo in shape, and you do that by letting the hippo learn karate and taking him trampolining. And I was
Yo.
like, you know what? I think
Great.
I'll give that a go.
All right. Yeah,
It's weird.
Hippo Sports coming out on the 2nd of October, apparently, for
I
whatever
mean,
reason.
what is that? What is that? Where did that idea even spawn from? But hey, I'm
I
playing
don't
it.
know. I have no idea, but interesting indeed. So, September 28th, big release, obviously, Total War Warhammer 2. Well aware of that one. Oh my god. Dodger, I'm going to stereotype you again because you only exist in a set of very basic characteristics. So,
Right.
there's been a ton of these choose your own adventure games called Choice of, and a lot of them are quite well written.
I love all
Choice
of those.
of the cat. Apparently, which includes
Oh,
knocking things over, taking a nap, and enslaving humanity. The world's biggest text-based cat simulator.
Great.
Yep,
I'm
Choice
in.
of the cat.
Let's do it.
There's been so many cats on this podcast. I'm so into playing cat games now.
It's quite a few cat games. I don't know what happened. It happened, yeah, but it did happen.
Fall of Light?
We just did
We
that.
talked about it.
Well, you're not paying
No,
attention.
but like,
Okay.
can we go back to that a minute? Is
Why?
that? Never mind. It just, I know it looks dark, but I'm trying to figure out like, that's the point, right? like,
Yeah,
I know, but I was
guess.
saying like sometimes those games are like it's so dark that it's difficult for you to even play it, and then it's not fun.
all right.
Okay.
I just kept looking at the game. I was watching a video. I was like, what's so light? And maybe like I
But
understand.
it's supposed to be dark.
Okay.
I get it.
Dodger.
Right, moving on.
But-
Vaporum looks quite interesting. So it's a kind of like Legend of Grimrock grid-based dungeon crawler, but it's in a steampunk setting. So I thought that looked pretty great. The art looks awesome. You're sort of fighting steam-powered robo-spiders and shit, and giant steampunk robots. I thought looked really cool. That is out on the 28th. I'm surprised you... Yes?
There's a game called My Name is Addiction,
I
and
saw that.
it looks fucking crazy.
When is this? It's not on the 28th.
Oh, the August. Wait, it says that it was
Is it?
August 1st, 2012. Why is it on
Okay,
this
so
list?
we can completely ignore that then. Yeah, I don't even see it on the list. I don't know where
It's
you're
on
finding
September
that.
30th.
Oh, okay. I haven't got there yet. We're on the 28th.
on the 28th, also Stick Fight the Game is coming out, which is the oldest concept in the world when stickmen fight each other, but it does look really stupid and fun.
I fucking love stick fighting animation.
So do I.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. I just love it. It's something about it. It gets me happy.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it is cool. I might play this just because I think you can just do a lot with stick figures that makes it look really, really awesome. So there's that.
That's true. I agree.
That's pretty cool. I'm very surprised, Jesse, that you have not gone to Nudist Beach Survival Simulator.
I saw it, realized it looked like Minecraft, and was like,
okay,
nope.
well, fuck that then.
Oh yeah, if it was like anime boobies, then I'm in. Minecraft boobies, non-existent, don't care. Pass.
Interesting little project. So Redwall, we keep bringing this up because, of course, it was a big influence on Tooth and Tail. This is the release version, I think, because I don't know if this has been in early access for a while or not, but this is by Soma Games. This is a licensed Redwall game. I actually saw a preview of this a couple of months ago, and it seemed like a pretty good stealth action game. So that's neat.
It looks okay. I'm a little worried that it won't be good. I kind of want a cool Redwall game. I think that'd be awesome. But I don't know. Visually, I looked at the trailer and was like, maybe.
I don't know.
I
wonder if it's like the same game as what I saw, and because actually, you know what? It kind of looks like it's not. Is there another Redwall game that I? This doesn't look anywhere near as good as the one I saw a while ago.
There's Moss, which is the VR game that I was playing a while that everyone thought was a Redwall game, but isn't.
No, it's not that.
Yeah, I don't.
Weird. Yeah, because this doesn't look anywhere. I saw a preview footage a couple months ago on a channel that looked way better than this. Huh.
Yeah,
strange.
The stuff that I saw while looking at this game on the list, I was like, oh,
yeah, that's weird. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm a bit confused, so I'm sure chat might tell me later or whatever. Okay, anything else on the 28th that looked interesting to you?
There's a game called Airport CEO, which doesn't look interesting at all, but it has completely underlined my thought that if you want to come up with a simulator game, just do it, and somebody will commission your video game, which I've thought for ages. So, yeah, that just hammered that home for me. Airport, if you've ever sat around going, man, I'd love to manage my own airport, now you can.
I like tycoon games, but a lot of them just suck. That's the problem.
Exactly.
There was kind of Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic is coming out on the 28th. Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a remastered version of the original Roller Coaster Tycoon. That's always good.
Yeah, I like that game. See, I really like that. That was really good.
Yeah, hopefully this version will be, because God knows that Atari has fucked it up several times on mobile so far. Oh, going back to the 26th for a second, by the way, I think we might have noticed this last week. Early access version of Dwarf Corp is coming out, which looks really kind of neat. It's sort of a ruthless capitalist dwarves in a strange fantasy land, build your whole crazy fortress up, sort of dwarf fortressy kind of thing. So that looks really awesome, actually. I like the graphic style in particular. So that's good. September 29th. Anyone got anything from there? Cuphead, of course. That's probably the big release that day.
I'm amazed it's coming out. We've waited
finally.
God, yeah.
Didn't believe it for a second until I saw it. Yep. Cuphead on the 29th. Anybody else, though?
I have another list.
I mean, I've only just seen it. I should have seen this earlier, but Throne of Lies, the online game of deceit.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds incredible. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, so I heard about this as a Kickstarter, and basically it's a social deduction game. Obviously, I don't know if you play things like Werewolf or Mafia.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of like that, as to how they've made it an interesting video game in a way that makes sense without just, playing Tabletop Simulator or playing Mafia in a million and one different ways. I do not know. But apparently it's inspired by Werewolf and the Mafia kind of genre. I mean, I think aesthetically it looks ugly as sin, but it looks like there's potential there.
It can't actually, aside from it, looking like it was made out of cheese, it does look. It looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, it looks a bit crappy in that regard. Anything else on the 29th that kind of caught people's attention? I didn't necessarily see anything too interesting.
No.
Not really. It's like there was an FPS called the Armament Project, but it really just looks like an asset flip, so not really too interested in that. It's like, it was a game called War Mages, then I realized it was some crappy RPG Maker game, so like, well, shame, that sounded neat, but I guess it's not. I think most of this good stuff is coming out earlier in the week. I mean, let's be honest, you're not exactly going to be lacking good games early in the week. There's a lot of good stuff coming out. So moving on to September the 30th. Anything that anybody saw there that got their fancy? There was Le Grand Legacy looked kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that looks interesting. I don't know much about it, but it looks interesting.
Yeah, it's supposedly a love letter to old school turn-based combat JRPGs. Looks like it has a pretty nice art style and it's fairly well developed. So that may very well be worth your attention. I'll look at those battles and be like, yeah, this looks like your kind of classic turn-based JRPG sort of setup. I'm sure there'll be an audience for that if it ends up being any good.
There is a game coming out that day called Tight as the Fox that I'm sure I'll play and be utterly disappointed with because it is just a 2D platformer that has decided the 80s are still going on. However, I still do want to kind of play it.
Why?
Because I do love an old school platformer. And if it's really crap, it'll just make me laugh even more. I did watch it. Man, I'd play that game, even though I'm sure it's utter junk.
Yeah, it definitely gave me a huge vibe of Shovel Knight style graphics, just not quite done all that well.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm amazed it's actually been able to be released without being sued by someone, to be honest. But yeah, a 2D platformer, I clicked it. I went, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think, as far as I know, as far as I can see anyway, that really sort of is about it. We've got October the 2nd, which is obviously Monday next week, which had Hippo Sports in it. But outside of that...
Vampire looks like it might be fun too.
Vampire?
It's a vampire deck building game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does look pretty neat. Is it a deck builder?
That's what it says.
It claims... Yeah, you're right. That already interests me more, because I'm at my limit of collectible card games, but a deck builder? That's a bit different. Deck builders are not around, weirdly enough, they're not around building decks prior to you going into the game. They're around building decks during the game, starting with a really shitty deck and building it up from there. I like deck building games. I like them an awful lot. The art in this is pretty good. Seems well animated. I'll give this a try simply on the basis of the fact that I like deck builds and having a vampire-themed one might be kind of neat.
Yeah.
So it's a nice little spot there. Side of that, probably missed some huge console release or something, but everything else looks a little pretty much run of the mill, really.
FIFA's coming out end of the week, I think.
Oh, is it? All right.
I think so.
It's the major thing. I think the beta for Call of Duty on PC is also out this week, so that's worth keeping an eye on. I don't want to try it. What I've seen on the console beta on Twitch was not that enthusing. I really like the recent Call of Duty games and the verticality. They've now taken that away, so I'm not actually sure if I'll be as interested now, but worth a look, I suppose. I'll have a gander at that. And also, if you happen to be in the Guild Wars, you're probably well aware that Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire is out today. So there you go. I think that's about it. That looks a bit. As far as I can tell. We'll probably miss something, but that always happens with the number of releases we've got. So, lots of choices. Hob Ruiner, Total War Warhammer, lots of things for you to try this week. Lots of things that are definitely worth your attention. And, of course, keep an eye out for Cuphead, because I will not believe it's come out until it finally actually has.
Until I can actually play it, yeah, I don't believe it.
Yep, there you go. Great. Well, that's pretty much been the show, folks. Thank you very much for watching, but we'd absolutely love you to watch our other stuff, if you wouldn't mind. Simon, thank you very much for being our guest today. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Tell us where to find your stuff, because you've got stuff all over the place. I'm sure people would like to go and follow your content.
Absolutely. I mean, if you just search for The Miller Report on YouTube, you can find my very daft YouTube channel. It does have some... Basically, if you like wrestling and you like games, search for The Miller Report, and that's what I'll give you. I'll give you wrestling and games. And if you just want a more wrestling-based stuff, I'm also over on What Culture. But you can get it all, a nice little filter, by finding me on Twitter at SimonMiller316. That's where all my stuff filters through. So yeah, you can just go there. That's pretty much all my shenanigans. And there is a lot of shenanigans as well.
Indeed, yes. Don't take it too seriously. It's like, well, for watching all your content in video game, you seem like a very serious analyst, as far as I could tell. But you've gone down a dark path, Simon. Dark path. Thank you very much for spending your time with us today. Much appreciated. You've been a great guest. Jesse,
thank you, man.
What you got coming up on the show this week? What's going on?
Oof. This week we have more silly new games we're gonna check out. Hopefully, if I can get a code, Crendor and I are gonna play Cuphead.
Yeah.
The kids want it, so that's what's gonna happen. And if we can't play Cuphead, F it, we're gonna find some other weird ass multiplayer game to play and be weird. Maybe, who knows? I'm still gonna pressure Dodger into doing The Letter with me. And maybe with Crendor too, if he's here in town. So that would be a weird stream. And yeah, just a bunch of nonsense. And tomorrow is episode 6 of our show Good Game on YouTube Red. It's bonkers. It's straight up thing. They go to a party at a place that I'm not gonna spoil, and it is exactly what you would expect would come out of my mind. So
as you should. Simon, by the way, not to call you out or anything, but you also have a metal band, I believe, and a channel for that.
I do have a metal band. That's true. I should have pimped that. Yeah, I mean, we do have the dumbest name ever, but that works for Google. So if you search for MG and the Juggernaut,
that's about as metal as it fucking gets.
I mean, that's a pretty metal name, right? And we just released a song called Dark Fight a week ago. Yeah, just a week ago. So you can, or it's on iTunes and Amazon, and you can stream it on Apple Music and Spotify. So yeah, MG and the Juggernaut, Dark Fight, if you're into your old school classic metal, lots of big riffs, lots of guitars, all of that kind of noise. And I've done a lot of stuff with my band, but this is the thing I'm most proud of. So yeah, MG and the Juggernaut, Dark Fight. Please go check it out if you're into metal.
I forgot to mention, I am not in a metal band.
I couldn't tell.
If we're gonna shout out metal bands, Necrogoblicon, look him up.
Yes.
The front man is a goblin.
Yes, he is.
There you go. Front man's a goblin guy in cosplay. I just go look that up and be like, that's weird, and then realize that MG and the Juggernaut is way cooler, but it doesn't matter because their front man's a goblin. Step up your game is what I'm saying. Get yourself a goblin front man.
You're 100% right. Why have I not been doing this since day one? I've let myself down, and I've let you down, and I basically let the whole podcast down. Yeah. I should have come on here as a goblin, but I didn't. I had the idea. Yes. I didn't follow it through. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, that's a disappointment. We're just going to have to live with. Yep.
Too late now.
Well, the healing process can begin. All right. Dodger, thank you very much for coming on the show. I know your internet's apparently on the fritz, so let's get those plugs in before it breaks
both Jesse
forever.
and I are experiencing some slideshow goodness. But yeah, you can find me at Dex Bonus on most things. I stream a lot, and YouTube stuff will be coming back soon. Also, if we're shouting out music, there's a band called Too Many Zoos, Z-O-O-Z, and I just now found them, and they're banging. It's all like really jazzy music. I love it. So maybe check that out.
Good stuff. All right, so what's coming this week? Bloody hell. I'm drowning in games. Got so many to check out. I wouldn't really know what order I'm going to be doing them in. I might give Ruiner a crack tonight to maybe put a video together on. I would love to do a video on Total War Warhammer. Obviously, I've did a lot of streaming prior to release on that, so you kind of know my opinion on it, but wrapping it up in a nice little bow would be cool, so I could sort of play it on my off time as my little sneaky, I'm totally working but not game. I want to look at Hob, certainly. There's a couple of other things this week that also look like they may very well be worthy of a gander, and maybe a few things that are not. So we will see how that goes. Most likely there will be a couple more streams, but I will tell you that my StarCraft tournament is happening on the 30th of September, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern, which is 1 p.m. the British Isles, 2 p.m. Central European Summertime. And we're going to be giving away, well, not giving away, they're going to be fighting for $10,000 in the King of the Hill, all or nothing. You lose one match and you're out of the goddamn tournament event. A lot of fun to watch. You shall enjoy it. If you've not watched StarCraft before, we'll make it nice and easy for you to understand. It's a very exciting tournament. We have a lot of mystery players, basically like a StarCraft Royal Rumble. That's how we do it, and it's awesome. So please do tune in to Shoutcraft Kings September edition on the 30th of September. And outside of that, expect some content. It will happen. And if you want to listen to an hour of us complaining about Star Trek, myself and Dan did a podcast called the USS Wankathon yesterday because we really don't like the new Star Trek, and we'd like to tell you for about an hour as to why. So head on over to my SoundCloud. That is soundcloud.com/user/TotalBiscuit for that. All right, folks, we are done. Thank you very much for watching the podcast. Big thanks to our sponsor today, Squarespace. Head over to squarespace.com/coopshop for 10% off your first order and a free trial. We're about done. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
See ya.